Happy Monday. Mike Florio was wrong again. Welcome into the zone. Joshua Brisco, Dylan Michaels, and who's this in the studio? Is that Sterling Holmes I see? Hey, Stu, how you doing?
I'm good, dude.
Jason Anderson is out today and tomorrow, so we brought in the big guns for this Monday edition of The Zone. Sterling Holmes of the home stretch sitting in with us here. You can hear him weeknights here and there on 810, most weekdays over on ESPN Kansas City, and generally just carrying some of the best hair around Kansas City. Again, I am Joshua Brisco with Dylan Michaels. He's back from a little short vacation. He is glowing, he is radiant, and he is ready for another week of, the things you talk about in this exact period of the sports calendar. This is really, in a lot of ways, the most freewheeling, free-flowing moment in sports media when you can, at any point, right now, look over your shoulder, Sterling, look at the First Take TV. We're talking about Cam Newton in a scuffle at a youth football event. If you want to talk about Cam Newton looking like the Giant in 300, just like crashing skulls together, looking like a superhero surrounded by youths, you can lead First Take with that. If you want to ban court storming, you can lead First Take with that. You want to talk about spring training? Well, you can't lead First Take with that, but we'll talk about baseball at some point today. There is spring training going on, and Cole Reagans is... we're all going to find out together, but it seems like it might be fun. But that's the space we're in here now, where you really can kind of choose your own adventure. There's not a definitive story right now, and there was a report this morning that's where we will begin things. It's very, very relevant to us here in Kansas City for a number of reasons. Also, there was some coaching news relevant to the Chiefs from over this last weekend, so I want to get into that, and we will have plenty of fun amongst the three of us, plus our rundown of guests today throughout the course of the show. We will talk to Matt Verderam of SI and the Matt Verderam Show. We will talk to him on his way to the Combine coming up here in a little bit less than an hour. 11 o'clock, we'll talk to Verderam as he'll be en route to Indy. Then Josh Kaiser of the Run One Royal Way podcast on KCSN. He'll join us at noon to talk about Cole Reagans, what he's heard and seen so far out of spring training, and do a little big picture look ahead to the baseball season. Mick Schaefer will then join us at 1 of KSHB 41 to talk about whatever it is that strikes his fancy from our array of topics today, our veritable smorgasbord of things to choose from, and a little learn funniest best. So we'll get to all of that here. Stu, how are you feeling? I know this is weird. It's like morning. The sun's not all the way up in the sky yet, and you're on the radio. Is that disorienting to you?
Yeah, I'm befuddled. I didn't know that there was actually a 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I just knew it was 9 p.m. I didn't know there was a 9 a.m. as well.
Can you believe, I know you just met some of them for the first time walking up and down the halls here. Can you believe there's a show on before this one here?
Yeah, that's...
They do 4 hours every morning.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Terrifying. You know, they are the real heroes because
Truly.
There is zero chance I'm waking up at before the crack of noon really is kind of my cutoff.
Yeah.
You know, and...
But the crack of dawn is non-negotiable.
No.
Have you ever done any fill-in of anything in the Border Patrol?
Yeah, fun fact, my first day I came here, I wanted to watch someone, and I texted Stephen St. John. Well, he's actually sent me the wrong time to show up because they go on at 6, right?
Sure.
Yeah, he texted me 5. He goes, sorry, my finger hit the wrong number. So I show up at 5. This was like 4 or 5 years ago now, a long time. Jake wasn't even here yet. No one's here. And I'm trying to be nice, so I go to Quick Trip, and I have a whole bunch of coffees.
Oh, my
I'm just sitting here because, I'm trying to be a try-hard and make myself look good.
This is so Sterling.
I'm just sitting outside. It's cold with, 4 coffees, and I'm like, did I get punked?
Yeah.
Is there even a show? And then he ends up showing up, and it was fine. He goes, sorry, my finger hit the wrong number. Sent me 5 instead of 6.
Do you think right now, if I don't know if Steven's, I can't see him right now. Do you think first of all, do you think he remembers this story? And second of all, do you think he did it on purpose?
No.
You think no to both?
I think no to both. Maybe it was a test to see how much I wanted it.
That's the thing.
Like, will he show up at 5?
Yeah.
Will he actually do it?
If he's there at 5, that says something about. But man, the coffee and everything at 5 is a real try-hard move of you. But you're a try-hard, and it's not always a bad thing.
And you knew I was wearing a suit at that point. Well, because you're trying to make a good impression. Now you look at me now in a long sleeve T-shirt and
man, you want to make a good
lounge
impression. Sure,
shorts.
like I'll wear a suit for Steven, Nate, and Jake. 3 guys I've seen in suits 3 total times.
That's 3 times too many.
Nate wears it on TV.
I
guess.
Yeah, good point.
But that is that's just the kind of guy Sterling Holmes is. He'll show up an hour early, 5 a.m. once, and then never do that again.
It proves that I can do it.
You
I've
can
done
physically do it.
Yeah.
You have put that on tape once.
Yeah, it's on there.
Defenses have to prepare for maybe he'll be up here live at 5 a.m. with a whole bunch of coffee, maybe some QT donuts.
It's the Mike Pinnell just destroying Trent Williams.
Right.
It's like, well, it's on tape. It's on
right.
tape.
You can never say that Mike Pinnell has never destroyed Trent Williams because you've seen it happen at least the once. That was your Super Bowl.
I'm Mike Pinnell.
And it's all been downhill from there. So here's the Chiefs news that people may not have seen yet this morning, as Tom Pelissero had the news of the day so far, saying that Andy Reid and the Chiefs are to open talks on an extension, expected to make Andy Reid the NFL's highest paid head coach. Here's the beginning of the story, verbatim from Pelissero, because it's not just Andy. Coming off back-to-back Super Bowl wins, the Chiefs and Andy Reid are expected to begin negotiations in the coming weeks on a new contract that NFL sources believe should soon make Reid the highest-paid coach in football. General Manager Brett Veach is also in line for a new deal, replacing the final 2 years on the contracts the duo signed following the 2019 season after the Chiefs' win in Super Bowl 54. A few words in there are interesting, and some of it's vague enough that we're not going to know exactly what these terms are going to be until we know. And even then, coach and GM contracts are reported very differently than player contracts. So we're not going to have every nickel of it or know what all of the clauses are and where the guaranteed money all goes. But new contract, highest paid, replacing the final 2 years, doesn't necessarily give you the word extension, but it does come up in the headline there of an extension that would be theoretically adding at least a year to all of these and providing a raise. Andy Reid and Brett Veach aren't currently taking other offers right now. They're not negotiating like college coaches looking for more money on their deals, but figuring out how long this window extends will be fascinating. That's something that we can kind of dig into in terms, and we'll talk to Matt about this also, but in terms of what that means for the stability of the Chiefs. They have not seen the coaching staff get picked over, but they have begun now to lose some pieces in the front office, and actually they had lost pieces out of the front office a couple of years ago, but now it's happening again. You are getting stability, and you are getting certainty in Andy Reid and Brett Veach, and I am going to try to hold off my own desire to talk about bad reporting. I'm going to push it off until a little bit later.
I was about to say, you know who's kicking the air right now, just punching air, pound sand, kicking rocks. You know exactly who it is.
I do, and at some point we will give him the attention that he so rightfully deserves. I think it was the first name I said on the show today, so he's already gotten the open. But the more important thing right now is that, and this is right in, we'll go ahead. He's not Voldemort. He's not nearly as cool or powerful. The thing that this should register for Mike Florio and his merry band of misfits is that Andy Reid and the Chiefs have been having these conversations about Andy Reid's future as often as they need to, which doesn't appear to be all that often. And now, after he was hawking that for the last 2 months of the season, the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Brett Veach are all getting to the table not to plan Andy Reid's succession plan, but to negotiate and eventually sign an extension that will give Andy Reid a raise and, as far as I could tell, would keep him in Kansas City for even more years to come. Again, the phrasing here being replacing the final 2 years on their contracts. This is not a 1-year plan or a 2-year plan. This isn't Andy Reid's golden parachute to then drift off into the sunset after nailing the three-peat. This is stuff we talked about after the 2019 season, before that extension. It's something we talked about in 2020. Something we've talked about every single year is, Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid's older than most head coaches at this point, but he's not the oldest head coach at this point. Now he actually may be, right, because of Belichick and Pete Carroll. He's way, way closer to the Harbaughs than you would expect him to be. It's just he's got a mustache and he's a bigger dude. I don't know. It seems like that's been a tax Andy Reid's been paying for a long time. But this is yet another foundational bit of organizational stability, and hopefully when this contract is done and we have some reporting on the length of the deal, I would imagine Andy Reid is not going to sign a contract that extends into years he's not planning on coaching. Yeah. That, to me, is going to be the line in the sand, and my big takeaway from this, obviously Brett Veach has a lot of gas in the tank, you'd imagine. Would be wild to get to the point of being an NFL GM and then quit when Patrick Mahomes is still your quarterback. If he reaches that point at some point earlier than most, God bless him, but I don't get the feeling that he's in any hurry. I would be absolutely stunned if Andy Reid signed a 5-year extension thinking full well he was going to retire in 2. He is going to want the Chiefs to be in a good position. He's going to want Mahomes to be in a good position, but that's not where his head has been at. We've known this for a while. We've been talking about this for a while, and yet the reports have still leaned the other direction. But again, my takeaway here is that we're going to get a number of years for Andy Reid through this deal, and then maybe you could say, hey, okay, so a 3-year extension, having him through the next 3 seasons. Let's say that's where it ends up, right? If you tell me that he's under contract for the next 3 seasons, I will tell you, okay, maybe then the thought is that he'll coach these next 3 seasons, and then in that last season, he'll have the succession plan kind of lined up. But he's not going to sign a deal to be here through 2027 and then retire after a 3-peat, and I would just like to go ahead and lock that in now.
I will also point out, looking it up, so Andy is 65.
Yeah.
Some reason one reporter acts like he's 85.
Correct.
Yeah. Guess how old Sean Payton is?
Who? Is he slightly younger?
He's 60. He's 60.
Flat 60.
Flat 60. Guess how old Jim Harbaugh is?
I think we went over. I think he's 61.
He's 60.
He's also 60. He looks great.
Yeah,
but he's 60.
But they're this again because they look great.
Yes,
and they're a little slimmer.
Yep.
Again, Andy's just a sturdy fella with a mustache, as you mentioned, right?
Who's been a head coach in front of our eyes for a very long time.
For a long time. But because he started off when he was younger, that doesn't make him older. He just coached longer.
Right.
Like, it doesn't all of a sudden add extra time to his age.
Bill Belichick is a free agent right now who is looking for a job maybe next year. He's 71.
No one brings up his age.
He's 71.
Again, Andy is closer to the age of Jim and Sean than Bill is to Andy Reid. But that doesn't get brought up. Again, it's because he's sturdy with a mustache. I find it fascinating that we've gone down this route when Andy himself has given zero indication that he wants to put up the Air Force Ones. Like, I don't see him doing this. It blows my mind. And by the way, Andy Reid is in love with coaching in football.
Yes.
Like, this is what he does.
What else will you have him do?
Is he going to fish? Like, maybe he opens up a burger restaurant. Sure,
Absolutely.
I get that. But this is what he is. He is a head coach. He is a phenomenal head coach. He loves the game of football. He's an innovator. Why are we starting unfounded rumors? And again, of course, a source, a unfounded source.
Rumors in the league
rumors,
sources.
Maybe, probably. Nothing
definitive.
No, come on. Just take it from the horse's mouth. Andy is going to be here.
Right.
He wants to keep coaching.
If he wants to manage anything, it's not going to be a restaurant. It's going to be a football team. He is a head coach through and through, and it's never been more fun for him to be a head coach. I imagine that this year was less fun than a couple years in recent memory because the offense was part of the problem. He also was solving those problems with the greatest quarterback currently blessing this planet. Like, Andy Reid has been able to execute offensive visions that I am sure he has had concepts for decades that he could never actually see realized on the field, and then had his own imagination jogged so much by the quarterback he has now, because of the quarterback that he has now. It seems like they're in a very good place with him and Brett Veach. I didn't know, and I wasn't really in media deeply at the time, so I didn't know what the deal was with him and John Dorsey, and it's still kind of fuzzy, and I don't know who wanted what and who stepped where, whatever. But it feels like Andy Reid has the Chiefs organization molded from from the assistant coaching staff to the general manager to the PR to the owner, it seems like Andy Reid is in as good a situation as a head coach could possibly be in, and certainly an offensive-minded head coach with the greatest quarterback of all time in progress. Again, I can't stress this enough. If Andy Reid merely coached until Bill Belichick's age and then retired, he'd have 5 or 6 more seasons to go from here. And that's without a third act in his career. 6 or 7 more seasons if he was to coach the age of Pete Carroll or Nick Saban, who are both 72. And again, people are asking Pete Carroll, do you still want to be a head coach again somewhere else?
Yeah.
Andy Reid is 65, and the mustache ages him 10 years.
Do you think there's anything to him wanting to be the all-time winningest head coach? Because he's 70 wins away from Don Shula.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 5 or 6 more years. You're getting close.
Absolutely.
You're getting close. Bill Belichick is third with, what's that? I'm really bad at math, but it looks like 44 more wins than Andy. George Hollis has 318, Andy has 258, and then Don has 328. So if Andy Reid, by the way, crazy, active head coach, 4th on the all-time wins list, he's 2 wins fewer in Kansas City than he had in Philly, but his winning percentage is so much higher. He was 130-93 in Philly. He's 128-51 in Kansas City.
Wow.
But I wonder how much that plays a factor, or if that even comes into the equation for Andy. When you are 70 wins away, you have the best quarterback in the NFL currently, obviously. You have a great team. You're piling up what seemingly is going to be about 12 wins a season. Maybe some are 10, some's 14. But let's say an average of 12 wins a season. Does that play a factor here?
I think that and one other thing that's very similar are both relevant. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew that to what degree. But I think Andy Reid clearly has an appreciation for the history and legacy of football. There's no doubt about that. Like, he is a football historian. He is an appreciator of the sport across generations. We know all of that. I don't know how much Andy Reid cares about the one head coaching stat that is an individual stat, which is that one essentially, right?
Yeah.
And none of them are individual stats. They're all team stats. You're a head coach of teams. You mentioned, he's a better coach now than he was during his Eagles days, but if he would have had Patrick Mahomes in Philadelphia, he never would have gotten to Kansas City, right? Like, we know this. I don't know if he cares about the one that says Andy Reid win total numbers and then all of what his retirement years may look like of people appreciating him and his legacy forever as one of the greatest coaches of all time, which I still think is going to happen. I kind of get the feeling, and I don't know, I mean, I hope this is true, because like the Chiefs, we touched on this on Friday a little bit. The Chiefs have been like lower in cash spending than their peers in recent years. Like Clark Hunt has been getting close to the salary cap, but not necessarily hitting it every year. And the Chiefs have money to move around, but he hasn't signed a lot of big checks that get paid off in lump sums and everything. He's done some. He's not pinching every nickel, but they're not spending to the extent that they could. I'm kind of getting the feeling that the whole organization is going to squeeze pretty hard for the three-peat. And they should, because do you know what's really effing hard? Winning a Super Bowl. Do you know what happens every 20 years at best? Winning them back-to-back. Do you know what literally never happens? The three-peat. Having the chance to three-peat basically never happens. And so I think it's a good question, Sterling, because I do think Andy Reid cares about winning, and he cares about the team, and he cares about getting to the payoff of what they put all this work in for. But I do think there is something in the legacy, in, I don't know if it's Mount Rushmore of greatest head coaches ever, if that's something he cares about. I don't know if it's getting trophies named after you someday. I don't know. But I think that being the only head coach to ever three-peat in a record that may stand that way forever, at least until Matt Nagy does it like 5 years later, I think that carries some real gravitas to it that wouldn't surprise me, and I certainly wouldn't begrudge Andy Reid for wanting that, because that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, you're talking about 4 Lombardis in a 6-year span. you're talking about actually, like, Mahomes charging after Tom Brady is one thing. Andy Reid's, look, the possibility of, or how far you're willing to stretch your imagination about, well, they could totally three-peat. Well, they'd still have most of these guys under contract, so I guess they could go for 4. Like, the extent you're willing to go to now in your imagination about this football team is so far beyond anything I ever would have dreamed of 10 years ago that it feels greedy and stupid and just absurd on every level. But it's all right there in front of them right now, and it makes sense to me that Andy Reid had no interest in walking away at this point in the process.
Well, I wear my Matt Castle jersey just to keep grounded, and you think I'm kidding?
I don't.
It's true. It's so I remember the good old days, which I would say the bad old days. I also think something in regards to Andy's legacy that might be more important, just going with what you're saying here. I had a chance to talk with Javon Curse. Remember the freak?
The freak, baby.
With the Eagles.
Yeah.
I believe Andy only coached him 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. It wasn't a long time, but he still said, Andy's my guy. Like, Andy is my guy. He still sends me Christmas cards. Like, he still asks about the family. And I think for Andy Reid's legacy, it won't just be what he did on the field. It's the fact that all of these players, however long they were with Andy, they all remember him fondly and don't have a bad story about him. I think that's very impressive, and what he cares about maybe even more is that all of these guys, he's affected in some way and affected them positively.
Yep.
Like, and I just that meant a lot coming from Javon Curse, just not there long.
A defensive player who was in Philly for 4 years and missed most of one of them and almost half of another, it semes like. Yeah.
And all he could say were glowing things, saying, that's my guy, that's my dude. He still checks up on the family, Christmas cards, all that stuff. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah. It does also tie into all of that. There's something I remember thinking back to the first Super Bowl of this era, since there are 3 of them now, and then one that they played in and didn't win. Still ridiculous to me. I just would like for everyone to appreciate that as often as you have the chance to, because someday that won't be true. Someday your team will not have been in 1 in 3 of the last 5, but it's unreal. But after the first Super Bowl, the number of former players, and even in the week leading up to, the number of former players and assistant coaches and all of that, it was just, all right, so who you rooting for here? 2 fun teams, and what do you like? I'm rooting for Andy. I want Andy to get his. I want to make sure Andy gets one. That, and he even talked about it. I can't remember if I think it was before winning this Super Bowl. It may have been that Monday presser after. I don't know. People are talking about, like, how do you rank them and what meant the most to you and all of those things. And, whatever, your favorite kid or your favorite pet or your favorite, you don't have to do that, but we all, for whatever reason, we like ranking things. And it's one of those answers that, that first one's special. And we talk about it for the Super Bowl you enjoyed the most or appreciate the most or whatever. I still know the 2 moments watching the Chiefs that most stunned me, that I could feel in my chest, was Sammy Watkins in the AFC Championship game against the Titans, and then any number of those late game moments in the first Super Bowl, because that really was. And I've said this a million times. I'm a parody of myself at this point. But that was like breaking of a curse. That was something I just didn't think could ever happen. All of that to say, the number of those guys that just wanted to make sure that Andy Reid didn't retire as the greatest head coach in football history to never win a title.
The Dan Marino of head coaches.
The Charles Barkley of yes, exactly. And it sucks that those 2 guys are synonymous with greatness but not winning. Greatness but not winning ultimately. Both got close, never actually claimed it. And now we're at a point where Andy Reid has 3, and he could go from being, skip back 6 years.
Marv Levy, basically.
In a 6-year span, Andy Reid could go from being in danger of being the best head coach to never win at all to being the only head coach to three-peat. What an enormous, incredible swing of what this half-decade or so of Chiefs football has been. I want to talk about a guy who's not going to be coming back to the Chiefs staff, and we will give Mike Florio his flowers. His dead, rotting flowers. Andy Reid's not going anywhere. Reports this morning that they're working on an extension, the Chiefs and Andy Reid, the Chiefs and Brett Veach, but one familiar face will not be returning to Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy is returning to the college ranks. Been a while. He was briefly with UCLA many years ago. Now he is the new associate head coach and offensive coordinator at UCLA. They just had the whole shakeup with Chip Kelly, kind of stabilizing things a little bit. And now Eric Bieniemy goes from being the OC of the Washington Commanders to this job as OC and assistant head coach at UCLA. There are a few things here that I think are interesting, and a few things that are kind of a bummer. Because one, if he wanted to make the move to college, he probably could have done it for a better gig a year ago. At one point, obviously once Deion got involved, I feel like that went away. But at one point there was talk about him going back to Colorado. What could he do there? Could he have gotten that head coaching job? I don't know. Does he want to be in college for a while, or is he hoping that he spends 2 years at UCLA and then comes back to the NFL? At that point, is he an OC? Is he trying to take this for 2 years and then go be a head coach in college ball somewhere? I don't know any of that. What I do know is a bunch of the quotes here from the ESPN story about Eric Bieniemy going to UCLA. A lot of this was written out to Schefter and Pete Thamel, maybe. Here are some quotes from Eric Bieniemy to the ESPN guys, putting all of this into context from Bieniemy's standpoint. Be curious to see how you all take this. Quotes from Bieniemy. I've had countless conversations and interviews with many teams, and I have been applauded and lauded. I can't say why certain decisions were or were not made, but it had nothing to do with a lack of anything on my end. My self-dignity, worth, integrity, personhood, manhood will never be questioned or compromised. It is not always about money either. With everything in life, it is often all about timing. At this time in my life, the opportunity affords me the pleasure of continuing to be a maker and leader of men, to do what I love, follow my passion and my dreams while not compromising on who I am as a man. I have no regrets with the Commanders. Contrary to what, this is also maybe, a couple of these are kind of broken up. This isn't all necessarily in this exact order. These are what I thought were the most interesting bits. One more thing here from Bieniemy. Contrary to what some think and what has been put out in the media, I was not fired. I actually just chose not to stay. Learned a lot, and that is always a good thing. That's him referring to the Commander's job. I will continue my walk in peace. I will continue my walk in my peace. I'm excited to be here and to coach these young men and football again. My expectations and desire to be excellent will never be turned down. I'm fired up. Let's go. So that is a lot, but not necessarily everything that Eric Bieniemy said that's in that story. You can read it on ESPN.com about everything that went into that process from Bieniemy's side. Yeah, Pete Thamel and Adam Schefter over on ESPN.com. Few things in there that are interesting. Stu, what strikes you?
I was not fired. I actually just chose not to stay.
Yeah.
That's interesting for two ones.
Mm-hmm.
One, could be completely true. Mm-hmm. But two, it also sounds like, have you seen Step Brothers? When it's like, I wasn't fired, I was let go.
Yeah.
Or, and you're like, okay, but were you pushed out or not? Again, maybe
can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah, you can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah.
And I wonder which one is the truth, and we probably will never know. I just found that interesting. But if he did choose to leave, then that that tells me that he goes, I don't want to stay on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
I don't want to be...
With the new staff is a weird spot. He joined a sinking ship. My biggest criticism of Eric Bieniemy was him looking at Washington last year and thinking that was going to be more than a one-year sink job.
Okay, but then now you have a raft. You're on an island and you have some pieces, but the raft is also going to take
don't get retained
some
in those situations very often. It seems to me like he was not fired, but he recused himself from the search is sort of what I assumed.
And that's what I found interesting is you were here. You made a decision at Kansas City to take a somewhat parallel job.
Very parallel job.
At Washington because you thought you could get more opportunity. Started off solid, right? And then it completely went down.
Theoretically parallel, as Dylan does a downward sloping motion with his hand, which is a fair
I think
point.
Sam Howell and Patrick Mahomes are
definitely.
No.
But by title, a parallel job. And then he got associate head coach or whatever
correct.
at Washington.
By title, and the thought process was, okay, if I do something great here with Slingin' Sam, this is going to make me look a lot better.
Yeah.
It was a bold take, but he bet on himself.
And I don't know how much of that was him doing. I think I don't think that the Chiefs pushed him out. I think he could have stuck around on rolling 1-year deals or whatever. But his goal was to be an NFL head coach.
Yes.
And it wasn't going to happen from that seat. We can talk about the reasons why and how that's not something that happened to Doug Peterson or Matt Nagy, even in less time as the Chiefs offensive coordinator, who also had less success in their windows of time. But I digress.
And I always find it funny because Matt Nagy was coach of the year and Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, so it's not like the Andy Reid coaching tree was that atrocious.
Nope, not exactly the Josh McDaniels falling down and hitting every branch down the tree.
I think the one mistake he made was not hitching his wagon to a stable barn.
Yes.
He didn't really
Yes.
put his place where the coach was like, hey, this guy's made, he's not leaving. Like, you put yourself in a situation where Ron Rivera should have been fired, like, maybe 2 years ago.
It felt like there was a
And
chance it was going to happen last offseason.
I just think he picked the wrong place. Because that's where he went down, too, is that there's no stability in this place like there is in Kansas City.
Yes. I agree with that 100%. I think you guys are both coming from the right spot. But that point in particular, Dylan, that's the thing that kind of makes all of this a little sour for me, is that I think he ended up in Washington because Washington was the place that was interested. I don't think that he turned down. I'm not sure what the example would be, but of a place with a stable, defensive-minded head coach. The funny thing is, you could be like, well, he could have gone to Tennessee with Mike Vrabel, but okay, he could have gone to.
And also,
all
the
hectic,
devil's advocate is like, he went there maybe thinking like, hey, Ron might get fired and I might get elevated.
Sure,
too.
right, and
So
maybe
to back him
gives
up
you a chance
on
on
the
that
decision a little bit,
ownership
but
group or whatever.
That's what I thought. I thought when Rivera got canned, I go, okay, well, maybe this is his opportunity, but clearly not.
You've got to really thread that needle in a spot like that to be like the succession plan for someone who's not retiring but who just gets fired. The thing for me now that just kind of bums me out is, again, I think that if he would have gone to college earlier, he probably could have gotten a better opportunity than this one. And I'm not saying he should have gone to college earlier, because I think that the choices he made were pointing to the end result he wanted, which was to be a play-calling NFL head coach. And he has earned that. You can say whatever you want about his interviews or whatever, being a Chiefs. I don't think you can say the thing about Chiefs offensive coordinator who's calling the plays and all of that, because that was not disqualifying for Nagy or Peterson. But you can say, well, Eric Bieniemy's stuff from college or whatever, and there's some stuff back there that people talk about, and it very rarely comes up after that. It comes up around head coaching interview cycles. The other thing that sucks is that I didn't see his name one time in head coaching rumors this year. I don't think I'm certain he didn't get a head coaching interview. He had interviews for the Seahawks offensive coordinator job. We were talking about him making another lateral move, and then if he would have gotten the Seahawks job, if that's Waldron now, right, in Seattle, he wasn't going to get credit for the Seahawks offense. So is he going to have to? How many offensive coordinator jobs does Eric Bieniemy need to get before he's able to actually get that one more rung under his foot to get to an NFL head coaching job?
Ryan Grubb.
Is he he's the OC now?
Seahawks, yeah.
But I just said the name 1 second ago,
Waldron.
and then but Shane Waldron's their new head coach, right?
In Seattle?
In Seattle, yeah.
No, Mike McDonald, the DC for the Ravens, right?
No, Waldron went from Seattle to. You're right. So he had. I'm just gonna take. My learning curve on new head coaching spots is gonna take a couple of weeks. Sorry, everybody. He would have had in Seattle. You're right. He would have had the defensive-minded head coach and his own offense. I think there was another job that Bieniemy was interviewing for that was new offensive-minded head coach, where he would have been the OC, but not necessarily the play call. I can't remember where that was.
Quite frankly, I just think it's tough, especially this coaching cycle when Bill Belichick.
Shane Waldron just got hired to be the Bears OC. That's
OC.
the new thing with Waldron.
But with Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, and then obviously Mike Vrabel, that's three head coaches who've had legitimately solid head coaching experience, all three. I mean, obviously, legendary with Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick. And let's be real now, Mike Vrabel has done a phenomenal job. I think we were all surprised he was let go from Tennessee with the success he had. End of the past couple seasons were bad.
Yeah.
But when you give a electrician nothing to work with and say, fix this, well, he's doing the best he can. Ryan Tannehill was the best quarterback he had to work with. And let's be real, Ryan Tannehill is
how dare you
a plastic
slander,
hammer.
How dare you slander Will Levis like that?
So it was tough because there was a lot of other, I think, really, really good head coaches out there that were clearly going to be above Bieniemy, and so in that aspect, this was a harder coaching cycle for his name to get out there.
And again, Mike Vrabel, who at the time we were saying you couldn't trade Mike Vrabel for a third-round pick. Mike Vrabel didn't get hired.
Yeah.
So that wasn't going to happen. Bill Belichick didn't get hired. Pete Carroll didn't get an interview. I don't know if we ever got real clarity on what his path was. I think if he was going to get a serious interview, maybe he would have taken it and maybe fractured a little bit of his new spot in Seattle, front office advisor role, whatever that was. But all of that for me, and again, I just, this is not very deep analysis, but it kind of sucks. This feels like an unjust ending for Eric Bieniemy's resume. And I hope he does a great job at UCLA. I hope he loves coaching college ball and wants to be a head coach and could be a kick-ass recruiter. Or I hope that this is rejuvenating for him as an OC and he gets another shot at the NFL level at some point. The Chiefs haven't had an offensive coach leave in this cycle, so I don't know if he would have been back. I don't think Andy Reid wasn't going to fire someone to make a spot for Bieniemy. And frankly, similar deal. If Bieniemy went to Washington, was the OC for 1 year, and then had to come back here to be the running backs coach again, that also feels like an unjust path given his resume. Matt Nagy came back and was the quarterbacks coach because he got a head coaching job and got fired and then re-entered that sort of cycle. The biggest crime Eric Bieniemy committed was not getting hired out of a spot that has been a head coach maker over Andy Reid's tenure here. Then he ends up taking a worse job. That job falls apart. Now he's at UCLA. So that, to me, again, it's just sort of a bummer. I'm not really even wagging my finger at anybody. It stinks, and it feels like an unjust ending for his path.
What I will say, too, is if you want to try and find a comparison for him to come back, Steve Wilks is the same age. Both are 54 years old.
Holy cow, they're the same age.
Steve Wilks was a, head coach, then went to defensive coordinator, then had to go back to the college ranks, right? Because he was at Mizzou, atrocious for at least half this season as a DC at Mizzou, then went back to the NFL. Now, obviously, he just got fired as a DC of San Fran. But again, there are some areas we can say there's some similarities of where just because you go to college after being in the NFL and having success there doesn't mean that your coaching career is over.
Yeah. But if I had to guess right now, if any point before last offseason, if you said, will Eric Bieniemy be an NFL head coach, I would have said absolutely. Absolutely, he's on track for that. If you said right now, will Eric Bieniemy be an NFL head coach? My money would be on no right now. Honestly, the best bet might be that, well, we'll get into this next segment, but if Andy Reid retires and Patrick Mahomes says, you know who I miss having around? Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
So now, unfairly all over again, I'm saying that if Eric Bieniemy is an NFL head coach, it's probably because Patrick Mahomes hires him. Like, that also stinks. That didn't have to happen for the guys before Bieniemy. And now here we are. We're talking about him taking a job at UCLA at a team that has currently its own turmoil and upheaval at the moment because, college sports are in sort of a bizarre place right now. It's totally NIL's fault. It's definitely not the coaches leaving or the coaches' money or anything the coaches are doing or the NCAA. It's definitely just the players getting paid a little bit of money. That's what's ruining it for me personally, but I'll save that for a little bit later. I want to talk about something else that didn't happen. Next, we'll have our Mike Florio conversation because, man, if he gets paid for being wrong, it actually would explain some things. from a little website called Pro Football Talk. It's run by a man named Mike Florio. Here is the entire, I want to make sure, real quick, just in case you just joined us. If you've been listening since 10 o'clock, this is all going to make a lot of sense. In case you're just joining us, report this morning that the Chiefs and Andy Reid and the Chiefs and Brett Veach are working on contract extensions per Tom Pelissero. And as we discussed last segment, Eric Bieniemy has gone to UCLA to be the offensive coordinator and associate head coach. February 11th, Pro Football Talk tweeted with a story, Eric Bieniemy could return to the Chiefs possibly as assistant head coach and possibly as head coach if Andy Reid decides to retire. Now, I think it's incredible that all of these things could have possibly happened and none of them possibly did. But I decided to go ahead and hop back in. And listen, I did the thing you shouldn't do in these circumstances, okay? I did the thing you shouldn't do because I wanted to be helpful. I gave him a click for the cause. And I would like to read you a little bit of Pro Football Talk from this story from 2 weeks ago. Former Chiefs and Commanders offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy is currently looking for work. Soon he could end up back where he had his greatest success. Per a source with knowledge of the situation, Bieniemy could return to the Chiefs for 2024. His title would be something along the lines of, quote, assistant head coach, with Matt Nagy likely remaining in the position of offensive coordinator. And it would be beneficial to the term? I think it said team. Should have said team. I just copied it. In multiple ways. Paragraph later, towards the end of the story, there's also still a chance that Bieniemy could return to the Chiefs as head coach. If Andy Reid retires after tonight's game, and to this point, no one knows with certainty what he will do, players like Mahomes and tight end Travis Kelce will likely make a strong pitch privately and or publicly for Bieniemy. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, you hear all of the coulds and the possiblies and the mights. Have you been keeping a could counter?
I tried. It was too quick for me, but I have could, potential, could, maybe, also still a chance, no one knows with certainty, likely make, also per a reliable source. So,
we'll call that the couch counter.
Yeah.
That right there is the couch counter. How many couches do we have in that list there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least 7.
And that's not the whole story. That is like the first paragraph and the last paragraph. We got at least a half dozen couches that we have counted up here. And when you hear it in retrospect, you can hear it, right? You hear it more loudly. It could, per a source, potentially.
Also still a chance. No one knows with certainty. Likely make. Maybe. Could.
But in real time, this just reads like a report from someone who has any idea what they're talking about. This is irresponsible. This is just a rumor that you are starting per a source who clearly didn't know what they were talking about. If you're a real reporter and you put out a story like this, first of all, the report is this bleep is happening. But if you're a real reporter with any clout whatsoever, you don't use your many couches. What's on your screen there, Stu?
Clown shoes. I think we should send this to Florio. And maybe a big old red nose.
I think it was probably too big.
You think it's too big for him?
It doesn't. Listen, man, he clearly does not have very big shoes to fill because anyone could do this. That's the thing. Anyone could do this. We gotta stop talking about him like his word means anything. Because the issue, and look, he has reported real stuff before. But the issue is now, I don't know when he's reporting, and I don't know when he's making bleep up. But all of this was click here and find out Eric Bieniemy could come back. He could also sprout wings and fly to the moon tomorrow. Like, yeah, Kyle Shanahan, maybe we won't make it till Sunday. Mike Florio will be here on Sunday. Writing nonsense. What do you have there, Stu?
Baby clown shoes. These might fit.
Or at least a little closer. Not a clown, Matt Verderam. Next.
Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
Rolling on in the zone here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, and we're not on the road to the Combine per se, but I know a man who is. Matt Verderam joining us now. I'm Joshua Brisco. Jason Anderson's out today. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. Matt, I'm realizing now, I don't know if I told you who is sitting in with me today, and if this is a deal breaker, I can definitely have him removed.
What's up, Copernicus?
Sterling Holmes is here, wiping his mustache off with a paper towel as we speak. Is that going to be a problem for you as like a hostile working environment?
I worked with Sterling for a long time in different capacities, and if that's the worst thing that's happening, I think that we're probably in pretty good shape here.
And yet you always leave me, so that has to tell me something.
You can get Matt's work on SI.com, and the Matt Verderam Show launched very freshly, very recently, and here for the offseason. Matt, before I ask about what's going on in your road to the Combine, tell folks about the Matt Verderam Show.
Yeah, it is a Chiefs-centric podcast that is on Patreon. And so if people want to check it out, they can go to my Twitter feed. It's all over there. They can find it there. The new episode today where I become Brett Beach, which I'm sure to Brett's horror, and I sit down and try to figure out the Chiefs offseason. But yeah, 2 episodes a week. There's some bonus episodes. There's some mailbag stuff. And it kind of harkens back to my roots now that I'm national at SI. It's just it's a Chiefs-centric look at the league. I've been humbled and somewhat shocked at the support the first couple of weeks, and I hope people check it out. It's been a lot of fun. I'm looking to have some pretty notable guests here over the next few weeks. I think Chiefs fans will be excited to hear from.
Patreon.com/Matt Verderam will take you there. And if you want to hear one first, the Louis Riddick episode's unlocked for everybody, right? A little preview?
Yeah. I had Louis on Friday, and he talked about his days in Philadelphia with Brett and with Andy Reid. And he disclosed to me that when Brett was younger, he could run a 4.40.
What?
Which is just, that's right. That's the kind of information you get in Matt Verderam show. I said to him, are you serious? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, Brett's a track guy. Brett could pick him up and put him down at 4.4. So I'm at the combine. I plan to ask Brett about this.
Good.
And we're going to get a public answer. But my understanding is that, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs general manager was able to run a 4.40 back in his youthful days. So food for thought.
I can't believe you went from me on the Matt Verderam show, the first guest, to Louis Riddick. You really moved up in the world, huh?
You don't want to start out too high.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, you can go up from me.
If this thing goes well, you can credit yourself, and if it goes south, then you're taking the blame.
If things go well for me, tomorrow I'll be co-hosting this show with Louis Riddick. I would love to make that trade for 4 hours tomorrow. You are literally on the way to Indy right now, right?
Yeah, I'm trying not to get pulled over while I'm on the phone. But yes, I am on I-65, southbound and down, baby, headed in.
What before we get to anything combine related, I know we've had some version of this conversation many years in the past, but what's the road trip rollout for you right now? Like, do you have a certain like salty snack, sweet snack, and a liquid of some sort? You just pounding coffee like Dan Campbell? What's the trip plan?
No, I pretty much take the human garbage approach. I gas up and then I just drive till I get somewhat hungry. I'm not a big breakfast guy, so I kind of just wait till lunch. And then I just stopped actually like a half hour ago. I had to just get a little extra gas. And I said, you know what? There's a Subway here. I'll grab a sandwich and some chips and a drink. So I did that. And now I'm going to try to be a reasonable adult and not eat again until I go out to dinner with some friends tonight, because I know when I go out to dinner, I'm going to eat an aggressive amount of food. I'm trying to space that bad boy out. We'll see how things play out, though.
You've been a longtime defender of Subway across many programs here, and that character development,
yes.
that is so powerful to me. It's important to remember your roots. What's wrong, Sterling?
Well, he's a New Yorker. Of course he loves Subway.
Yeah, so Dylan, I guess you could turn off Sterling's mic if it is easier for all of us, if that's how it's going to be.
I feel, like Subway's not really, unless maybe I'm missing the boat, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Subway as like a regional thing. I mean, Subways are all over the place. Now I will say this: the people up in Massachusetts, Dunkin' Donuts is like an ungodly way of life. I remember once covering a Patriots game. I was up there. I was in college. I didn't say covering. I was working at ESPN as like just an absolute utility, and I'm up there. I was like, well, I'm going to go get lunch. And I passed like 5 Dunkin' Donuts in the span of like 8 minutes. And I finally was like, all right, fine. I'll get a bagel. Right? So I sit down and I'm eating a bagel and I look across the street and there's another Dunkin' Donuts. And I was just like, how many did you need? Like, how many Dunkin' Donuts could you possibly keep in business? The answer is 1 million.
Yeah, all of them.
It's unbelievable how many Dunkin' Donuts are in the New England area, but that's neither here nor there.
Not specifically for tailgating or anything, but what's the best NFL city for like a food road trip for you?
Honestly, I swear to God, it's Kansas City.
Yeah.
I love, like, the Kansas City at this point. New York, my hometown. Outside Chicago now, it's where I live, and my kids' hometown. But like, Kansas City is like an adopted town I never lived in, so every time I go there, I have so many people I see, and like the food. But like, it's always centered around food. It's always like, all right, we're going to Joe's, or we're going to Char Bar, or we're going to Jack Stack, or whatever, Q39, you name it. There's a million other places I can name. Brian, like it's not that there's like an eclectic mix of food. Like, you're not going to Kansas City and going, like, I'm going to get some Thai food.
Right.
Like, if you're from out of town, like every meal I have is barbecue. Which always amazes me when I go to like cover a game at Arrowhead and the spread is like hot dogs and chicken tenders.
Dude,
And you're like, it's Kansas City. Like, get some barbecue catered here. Like, what are we doing?
Can we get a burnt end?
I'll start to the staff.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I should be, everybody that covers the Chiefs game in Kansas City should be eating burnt ends and brisket watching Patrick Mahomes. Like, they shouldn't be sitting there eating a hot dog. That's that.
At least for like the national riders and the road team visitors, they've got to get that. If you want to give the locals like a salad bar just so we don't, all completely gorge ourselves, but we've figured out how to do like the self-discipline of a barbecue spread over the years. If you're coming to Kansas City for a game, there should be like a hibachi style chef throwing burn-ins at your face.
There should be like a live roast outside the stadium where they're just bringing it in every half an hour. When I've covered games at Lambeau up in Green Bay, like when you go there, it is brats and it's cheese curds.
Yeah.
And it's all like the local flavor. And then you go to Kansas City and they're like, chicken tender? Chicken tender? Like, what happened here? Like, who did this?
Who did this? Who let this happen?
I have deep concerns about it. Maybe I'll bring that up if I see a couple of the people that I feel might be responsible for this. I see them in the combine.
All right, as far as the combine goes.
Whoa!
Sorry,
big for your britches. I said you could be on. Not that you could hop over our chicken strip talk.
So I can talk. Sorry, I didn't know. I figured we were done talking.
That's not your decision. That's not your decision to make. So, Matt, on to the combine. Since you're on your way to Indy, I have genuinely been wondering, what should we care about during combine week? Because the stuff that guys are doing in Indy continues to fluctuate and, by and large, decrease. You see fewer of the big names actually working out there. What matters?
Yeah. All right, so let's break down the fourth wall of this a little bit. So what everybody sees on TV is probably the least important thing of the entire week. Like, most of these guys, now listen, there are the exceptions. They're the guys that are expected to run, 4.6, and they run a 4.4. And those guys, and that matters. It shouldn't, but it does. There are guys who run a crazy 3-cone for old time, like stuff like that. Like, yes, if you're the outlier, then yes. They've been scouting you for years. They've been scouting you since high school. Like, they know what you're going to run. They know they're not shocked by your height and weight. Like, it's like when I was there years ago. And the big thing was that Kyler Murray was 6 feet tall, and they basically measured him behind a curtain, and then they came out and they're like 6 feet. Okay, sure he is. I'm 6'2", and he's clearly not. But in any event, look, I think that the things that NFL people will tell you that matter the most are the medical evaluations and the interviews at the games. Those things matter the most. And then on top of that, free agency is not slated to start until March 11th. I have news for everybody listening. It's starting tonight. That's when it's starting. Because agents and teams, they will meet at bars, they will meet at hotel lobbies, they will meet in hotel rooms, they will meet out at dinner. Free agency, I guarantee you by the time the Katz brothers leave Indianapolis, they're going to know exactly how much they can get for Chris Jones in Kansas City and elsewhere. They're going to know. It's just, it may not be exact dollar, but they're going to have it's going to be 4 and 110 from this team, and it's going to be 4 and 115 from this team. And, they may not know the exact structure, but they're going to know the money, and they're going to know the years. And so, free agency, it starts in earnest today.
When it comes to the combine in general, obviously it starts today, ends March 4th. What does the timeline look like? And again, is it not just the combine? There are these behind-the-scenes dealings. What does the combine actually mean overall?
Turn his mic off again, Dylan.
Yeah, so the timeline, look, tomorrow, Beach and Andy Reid are going to talk. And, between tomorrow and Wednesday, all the GMs and the coaches that are going to be made available are going to be available, and they're going to be there. They're going to talk for about 15 minutes. And then starting on Thursday, you're going to get a lot of the player interviews, and they're going to come in by positional groups. And for anybody who wants to check it out, that entire schedule is on NFL.com. It's out there. And then I believe it starts Thursday night, I think, is when all the actual on-field stuff happens in Lucas Oil, and that runs through the whole weekend, as you mentioned. But again, like I can tell you right now, at 2:00 in the morning tonight or tomorrow morning, however you want to frame it, I'm going to be either at a hotel bar or I'm going to be at a steakhouse that's downtown where everybody goes.
St. Elmo's?
And you're going to be learning. You're going to be learning in real time about, hey, this is what this guy is going to have as a market. This is what's happening. This is how many teams are interested. All that stuff starts now, and I think that's what makes the combine so fascinating.
My last combine adjacent thing before we get into kind of the Brett Veach stuff and some of those guys you've already mentioned, is there anybody at the combine who you are excited or interested to see for any reason? Obviously, you're not going to be in for the interviews, and the medicals are all kind of hazy, right. And we said, most of these guys' measurables aren't going to change anything, but is there any storyline on the field at the combine that has caught your eye so far?
I would say the quarterbacks are always kind of the story. Now, obviously, we know Caleb Williams is not going to throw, and that's fine. But, of that second wave, I was at the Senior Bowl. Michael Penix and Bo Nix were not very impressive on the field. They struggled. I am curious to see how they are at the combine. Now, of course, games, practice, different, both of which were excellent in their senior years, but both of which were also in college for an extended period of time. They both were transfers. They both were not good at their original spots. Then they transferred into the Pac-12 and they became God. What does that look like, this week? Is it hey, the same? A guy like J.J. McCarthy, what's his stock look like? I'm more interested in that second wave. May and Daniels and Williams, they're going to be top picks. They're, unless something crazy happens, they're going to be top picks. I'm more interested in that 4 through 6 range of the quarterback. And then at receiver, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., you have Malik Neighbors, you have Roma Dunze. Again, that second level of guy. Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son. I thought was fascinating down in Mobile. I'm looking forward to him here. Pearsall out of Florida is another really interesting guy. I'm curious to see the second wave of some of these bigger position groups.
Does it matter at all that Marvin Harrison Jr. is just not showing up at all? Like that, even the guys who haven't thrown or haven't run, this seems like at least an extra gear to that, right?
Zero. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't. The guy was ridiculous. Can you imagine being a GM sitting in your room and let's say whatever you're picking fourth, okay?
Yeah.
And he's on the board, and you're like, you know what? He might be the best receiver prospect I've seen in 15 years. But he didn't show up to Indy.
Right.
So I'm thinking a fullback.
Yeah.
It's not the way. No, I don't think it affects him. I really don't.
Do you think it could affect the combine at all if the super safe, super locked in, top end talents eventually just say, "Hey, I'm gonna save myself the trip"?
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I think, though, as long as guys are doing the interviews and the medical, I think the teams will continue to go. I think it's if guys just flat out are like, I'm not going. And look, The one thing with the combine changed over the years. People might remember, the drills used to be during the day, and then the NFL was like, you know what? We can make an extra 8 cents if we do them at night. And that sounds like, who cares? Yeah. Agents, trainers, nutritionists were pissed when that happened, and are still pissed about it, because all these guys. People don't realize how incredibly fine-tuned these guys are for these things. They're looking at biorhythms and trying to figure out how they can optimize themselves between these couple hours. I know, I remember I wrote a big story on Aiden Hutchinson and a few other players, and they were coming out of college, and they were preparing for the combine. I did it from LA when I was at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And Aiden Hutchinson was talking to me about the fact that he's very specific about the type of water that he drinks. And he doesn't drink mineral water because mineral water has extra minerals in it that he already gets from other sources, so he won't drink mineral water. And it's you or I, right? We're picking up any water. I'm picking up water from a river. And it's hey, whatever.
Right.
And he's sitting there no, it's got to be distilled. If it's not distilled, I don't drink it. That's the kind of level you're talking about.
We're not quite the level of fine-tuned athletes we are, but I get it. We're talking to Matt Verderame. You can check out the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon, patreon.com/Matt Verderame. Read his work on SI.com. Let's get into some of the Chiefs-focused stuff. You've mentioned Chris Jones and the Katz brothers already. Three of my favorite people to talk about over the course of the offseason. That three-headed monster. Listen, one of them is really, really, really important to what the Kansas City Chiefs do, and then two of them also have made themselves important to what that guy will be able to do. What is your expectation right now before you've had the hotel bar conversations, before the combine has gotten up and running? What should we be expecting on where the Chiefs are at and where Jones and his camp are at?
All right, so look, the Chiefs right now are sitting at about $17 million worth of space. They cut MVS, which I expect that they'll do. That'll bump them up to 29. Then you have the big question of Mahomes' contract. They can restructure it. They could save as much as $37 million additional dollars. Now, I don't know that they need the whole $37 million. Like I said on my Patreon show, I broke that down this morning, and to give a little teaser, I said, look, if I'm the Chiefs, I'd restructure $20 million of it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do the whole thing. I'd do about half of it. I think that'd be plenty of money for them. But the bottom line is, they're going to have the cap space. Like, if they want to create cap space, they can do it. There's a litany of different things they can do. I asked an agent in the league, a very prominent agent, give me a projection for Chris Jones. What do you think his contract is? And I was told the projection he gave me was 4 years and $110 million, which is $26.5 million a year. Like, that, it sounds astronomical, but the real question in that is the guaranteed money. So, like, Aaron Donald got $3.95 basically fully guaranteed. I do not see any world where Jones is getting $95 million guaranteed. However, the next number is 66. That's what Quentin Williams got. If I'm Jones, I don't care that I'm turning 30 in July. I want more guaranteed money than Quentin Williams because I'm better than Quentin Williams. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're the Chiefs, you're going to have to come in at $70 million guaranteed. That's what I think's got to happen. And if they do that, you can play with the years and the numbers, whatever, however you want to do it. Maybe you go 3 and 84 and you guarantee him 70 or whatever. But, like, I think that's the key number. And the Chiefs, a year ago, were basically willing to say, look, we'll give you 2 extra years and $54.5 million fully guaranteed. Like, they were willing to go to basically turn it into a 3-year, $75 million deal, and Jones's camp didn't want to do it. The problem the Chiefs are going to have now is you don't have a ton of leverage here. Like, Jones could just say, hey, look, I'm going to market. And the only way they can stop that is by tagging him at $32 million, which is astronomical. The only thing, though, they could afford it. Like, Brett Veach could say to the Katz brothers, hey, look, here's my best offer, and you should really consider it, because if you don't take it, I'm tagging you, and the offer's only going to get worse. Mm-hmm. That's a dangerous game to play, but there is the real threat to Jones' side that they could tag him.
With the cap space exploding, does this help or hurt Kansas City? Because I think the initial reaction is, oh, great, they have now the money to sign Chris Jones to this lucrative contract. But also, this allows other teams to have the same amount of money. A team that maybe is saying, yeah, we need a Chris Jones. We're one piece away. We need that Super Bowl pedigree. Now, their offer was going to be 26. Now it can be 29. They have more money to work with. Does the cap space exploding help or actually hurt Kansas City?
I think it helps them in one regard. It guarantees essentially that future cap hits, barring another pandemic, are going to continue to go up. Mm-hmm. Right? I shouldn't say cap hits, but the cap threshold. And so you have less of a hesitancy to push money down the road because the money just doesn't matter as much. Like, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm more willing to restructure Mahomes and extend Tooney maybe. And that's one thing nobody's talked about, by the way, is Tooney. I understand he's going to be in his age 32 season. The guy's an all-pro, and he's playing a position that ages pretty well, typically. He's due $26.9 million this year on the cap. What if they gave him a 2-year extension, and they lowered that cap hit by $15 million? I mean, like, there are options. Justin Reed, I think, flat out should extend, and maybe lower his cap hit to, say, $7 million. So I think the cap going up helps those causes. Now, that's true, of course, of every team, but the one thing that the Chiefs do have with the benefit of Chris Jones, and there's no arguing this, like, he has been pretty adamant he wants to be there. I don't think they're going to have to outbid everybody, I just don't think they can underbid him. I don't think they've got to go above and beyond. I don't think there's bad blood. But, if the Raiders come in and, hey, we're going to offer you $3.90, and the Chiefs are like, well, we'll give you $3.78, like they're probably out of luck.
Right.
They're going to have to either match or get pretty close to it. And they have the money to do it, but they've got to be willing to do it.
Last thing on the Jones side for me, what do you think the likelihood is that there's a team out there that would offer? I think that number is exactly what I had met of 3 for $90, and say we'll give you $30 million per year. Do you think that offer is going to be out there somewhere?
Yes, I think it'd be out there in multiple places. Yes. Now I will say this: I say multiple places. That like literally might be 2.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm not saying that he's going to get 10 offers in that. And the hard thing is, at D tackle, it's a position that a lot of guys got paid out last year. So, you have that kind of standard, that threshold. Hey, this is, every contract is like 25.9. And then you look at it, okay, well, this year there's Matabike, who might be coming out of Baltimore, although I think he'll get tagged, but he might not. Christian Wilkins, who might get out of Miami because Miami's in a bad way cap-wise. He's a great player. Maybe he gets out of town. And so maybe there's guys that you look at and go, hey, listen, I love Chris Jones, but this guy's younger and he's cheaper. And so you might go that route. I don't think he's going to have a massive bidding war for him because it's just, look, not too many teams are going to give $30 million a year to a defensive tackle turning 30. But I'll tell you right now, I used them specifically earlier. If I'm the Raiders, I'd absolutely give him 4 years and $120 million. I would. Because to me, it's like, well, then you have him and Crosby, you take him from the Chiefs, you have a mentality, you bring over the experience, you set a new tone in the building. I think, there are teams that would do it. And that's why I think if you're the Chiefs, it's a weird thing because you're going to tag him or Snead. I can't imagine them not tagging one of them. But I think there's a far better chance that Snead goes to market and the Chiefs can re-sign him anyway because they'll just match whatever the best offer is. I think that's more likely than if Jones goes to market, the Chiefs are going to have to pay some ungodly amount. And I just don't know that they would do it. That being said, it's probably more prudent to tag Snead because Snead is $19.8 million and Jones is $32. So it's a very, very interesting situation that Brett Veach is looking at.
Yeah, so let's slide over to Snead then, because I've been kind of under that assumption that it makes so much sense to tag Snead, where if he plays out the year on the franchise tag, that's cool with me. If they tag him, and I don't know what the market would be for this, I'd be curious to know what you think. If they tag him and get a trade offer they like, that would be fine with me. If they tag him and get a long-term deal, that would be fine with me. There's not like a disastrous outcome for me on L'Jarius Snead if they do tag him. It does mean that they lose that leverage with Jones. So what's your feeling on Snead right now and what that market's going to look like?
So with Snead, and one quick note on this tag, so the deadline is March 5th. I have a feeling, unless there's some kind of communication breakdown with one of these guys, the Chiefs are probably going to wait till March 5th because you want to keep that leverage as long as you possibly can. Now, that, of course, changes if all of a sudden, in an hour from now, they're like, hey, Chris Jones is back. Then well, you might as well tag Snead and move on. But if not, then I think this might be something that goes on for a little while here, and we're playing a game of chicken. I asked another agent, in fact, a couple of agents, about Snead and give me a projection, and I was basically given a projection of $3 and $45 million, which I got to tell you, if I were the Chiefs, I would sign into that yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I will be upfront to say I believe that's low. I think that's low, but. The other one was like $4 and $50, which is even less. So, I mean, that was during the playoffs. I believe that was right before the Bills game. I got those projections. I don't know that I think that's right. I gave my own projection. I think he's more like the 4 years, 60, which again is 15 a year. But I think he's young enough. He might get an extra year out of that, which means more guaranteed money. Look, if you're Snead's representation, you're looking at this and going, all right. If I get 2 tags, like this for a round number, this one's $20 million, and then the following year it'd be 24. So we're starting at $44 million guaranteed. That's what we're starting at, and I'm not taking any less than that. Like if I'm his representation, I'm shooting for 20 a year. I don't think he's going to get there, but I would be asking for like 3 and 54 and 45 guaranteed, something like that. Which, if you're the Chiefs, I think you consider it. But I would be shocked if they don't tag at least one of these guys. And Snead obviously makes the most sense considering his cap number's a lot lower.
With L'Jarius Sneed, is some of the reason why his contract might be lower because he's going to be 20, or he is 27. He's already 27 years old as a cornerback hitting the open market. Now, I obviously understand it's hit and miss here. I was likening them to closers in baseball. One year they can be great, one year they kind of fall off. But I think one name that always gives me a little bit of cause to pause is Nnamdi Asomugha. Right? All of a sudden, he hits 29, then 30, falls off the face of the earth. Went from the best corner in football to all of a sudden he is a bum, if you will. L'Jarius Sneed, though, I don't see him falling off, but with cornerback at such a up-and-down position, is this one of those situations where you sit back and say, it might be a little risky giving him a 3 or 4 year contract based on his current age already?
Depending on structure, yeah, sure it could be. I mean, I also remember that this entire summer he couldn't practice because his knee hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a real thing. Like, is that knee good? Is that knee going to hold up for the next handful of years? Is that not a big deal? Is that a maintenance thing? I mean, to be fair to him, he played the whole season, even though he was on the injury report at times. He played great, right? Didn't miss any time. So you could certainly argue, hey, look, that's a non-factor. I think the big question here is going to be, do the Chiefs view L'Jarius Sneed as a need or a want?
Mm-hmm.
I think Chris Jones is a need. If they don't have Chris Jones, they have the three of us at defensive tackle.
Yep.
Okay? Not great. They have Chris Jones at defensive tackle. They could have the three of us alongside of him. It doesn't really matter. Right? Sneed, as great as he was this year, they have Trent McDuffie. They have Jalen Watson. They have Joshua Williams. And they've proven they can develop corners like crazy.
Yep.
Now, I would argue that, hey, you know what the best scenario is? Both of them.
Yep.
And if that means losing a guy next year like a Trey Smith, if Trey Smith is excellent, I'll live with it. If that means losing Tooney after this year and you sign Smith and Humphrey, okay. Because the one thing that Sneed and McDuffie as a pair give you that no other corner tandem does, they give you versatility like nobody else. They can play inside, outside, press man, off man, zone coverage. They tackle in space. They tackle at the line of scrimmage. They're both great blitzers. I mean, that gives Spagnuolo so much freedom to just do whatever he wants. Because they can, look at the Super Bowl. How many times in the second half of the game, they just lined up in man coverage there like, beat us. Do it.
More than ever before in the Spags era, right? I mean, I think statistically that's literally true.
They lined up in man in the second half and overtime of that game and just said, throw it. Do it. Don't care that you have Deebo Samuel. Don't care that you have Brendan Ayuk. I mean, they were to the point in the second half of that game, there were snaps that Tamari Connor was on George Kittle, man on man. And they didn't care. They had no fear of it. And I think you'll lose that as good. Look, I like Jalen Watson. I think he's a good player. But you're probably not ultra confident putting Watson on Brandon Ayuk one-on-one. You are with L'Jarius Sneed. You don't care. You have no fear of it. So, and by the way, I will say this quickly. The idea that they can't sign both guys is ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they absolutely can sign both guys. They could fairly easily. They could do it. But then, it probably is going to mean that down the line, you're going to have to let a guy go that probably you don't want to let go. That's the reality.
Last thing on Sneed, do you have any sense whatsoever as to what his trade value may be if the long-term numbers aren't quite right, or if the Chiefs tag him and want to get value for him? Because I am in a very similar space to where I think both of these guys continuing to be Chiefs for the long haul might end up being the best play. But if they end up getting an offer on Sneed, do you have any idea where that offer might come in?
Second round pick. I think probably. I don't think he's going to get the first.
Yeah,
because if you tag the guy and you're trading him, everybody knows you have no leverage.
Yep.
So, like the Tyreek Hill thing was so different. I think that kind of warps people's perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't tagged like that. That was he's on a contract and we're close to an extension. But hey, now all of a sudden Christian Kirk got paid like he's Sherry Rice, and Devontae Adams' deal happened, and everything blew up. And they were days from signing that extension. I remember extensively reporting on that, and it was almost a done deal. And then all of a sudden the Chiefs said, okay, well, you know what? We're going to trade Tyreek Hill. We have him under contract. Like a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, as great as he is, A, is not a generational talent like a Hill. B, it's not tagged. So, yeah, I think they get a day 2 pick for him, and I think that would be about it.
If it was a higher second rounder, it would be interesting. I don't know. We'll certainly have plenty of time to talk about that and dissect the options as we get closer to the draft. Matt, I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time of, I'm sure, beautiful, beautiful highway to chat with us en route to Indy. If you want to read Matt's work from the Combine, go to SI.com and then check out the Matt Verderame Show for even more on the Chiefs and Verderame getting back into the red and gold a little more there. The Matt Verderame Show, patreon.com/Matt Verderame. Matt, appreciate it. Good luck making it all the way to dinner tonight.
Thanks. I'm going to have to get through about 800 windmills that I'm staring at right now. So, awesome. Take care, guys.
Count them up and stay awake. Matt Verderame, he's got places to be. I love it when he just hit. And, like, we know he's driving. He's on an iPhone. His texts are blue. Why does it make that sound when you hang up? He touched a touch screen. It sounded like he was throwing a rotary down. I don't get it.
It was an old-time phone, just the click. That was the most satisfying when you had the old phone or the flip phone and you're really angry at someone and you just shut that bad boy.
Okay, you weren't. I thought you were about to say it was great. The old rotary phone, you slam that headset down because
Not
you're
that old.
29 years old.
Yeah, I didn't have
right?
that,
We're both
no.
20.
Yeah.
Dylan, how old are you? Are you 30?
I'm close. I'm 29 in March 27th.
Are we just 329 boys right here?
Wow.
Look at us.
Parents are gone. No Jason here. We're just the kids taking over.
Babysitter isn't home. Mick's not here yet.
That's and Mick is the babysitter who does bring booze with him, and you're like, are you
Uncle Mick.
Uncle
There
Mick
you
for
go.
sure. Uncle Mick will join us at 1:00. We'll keep it rambunctious at noon with Josh Kaiser of KCSN and the One Royal Way podcast. But a ton of interesting stuff there from Verderame and a whole bunch of other things from around the Chris Jones conversation, a little bit of audio I think you guys will find interesting. And if it works for you guys, I think we keep talking about the Chiefs and off-season stuff and all of that because that's the spot we're in right now, baby. And I will tell you, I don't want to get too big for my britches, but sources say that there is a possibility that we could take a break and then could potentially come back and talk more about the Kansas City Chiefs. You could hear that next, potentially.
Are we taking a break or are you Florio?
We could potentially be taking a break
Okay.
as soon as today, as soon as right now, when we would then have the potential of coming back next in the zone.
Listen, men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction, it is no longer the acceptable thing to just simply remain quiet and not get it treated because it can affect your life, relationships, mental health. It can impact your partner. It can do a lot of things to impact your mind. And sometimes your partner thinks it may be their fault. It may be affecting your life outside of your relationship if that's what you've been thinking about and stressed about. If you've got symptoms of ED, why wait? When Heartland Men's Health has treatments with success rates well over 90%. No longer taboo. It's not embarrassing. It's what they do. It's their time and focus is your health. They have been successfully treating men in the Kansas City area, and if pills and other things are not working, they have been treating men with now 2 locations in Overland Park and their new location.
We let Sterling out of his cage. And he's been here just peeing all over everything. I got a squirt bottle. Will you hand me that Windex? If you get out of line, just a...
Tasmanian devil, I think it's kind of, if I were an animal, probably that.
2 Tasmanian devil-related things because I'm great at just word association because my brain's bad. One is that one of my most traumatic documented early childhood memories was at the Wichita Fall Festival when sources close to the situation reportedly told me that I said, as the Tasmanian devil mascot, like full costume and everything was roaming around, that I, in tears, was just mumbling to my mom, "No more devil, no more devil." I was 17 years old.
Look at that picture. That looks like me. A little bit.
The other thing that reminds me of was during when Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift were in the the Sydney Zoo last week. Somebody tweeted, imagine how fun it would be to explain marsupial facts to Travis Kelce. Like, imagine getting to tell him the Tasmanian devil's a real animal. And I thought that's a pretty funny idea. Sterling didn't think it was that funny. That's okay.
That's pretty good, I guess.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's an audio medium, so I try to, chuckle with some little...
Ha! You nailed it.
You started throwing L'Jarius Sneed takes in my face the second we broke last segment.
Yes,
and so
correct.
I'm here to invite you into talking about L'Jarius Sneed because I have like 33% of my brain in 3/3 of this camp right now. I am very open to lots of options. The thing I don't want to see happen is the Chiefs lose L'Jarius Sneed just to straight free agency and not get anything in return for the work that they put in to develop him and the player that he has become. Where do you stand right now on the L'Jarius Sneed, the dichotomy right now? You have the options, tagging, letting him walk, working a long-term deal. Obviously, some of that can overlap.
Yeah, I think at worst, you're getting something back. At worst, it's a franchise tag and then a trade. As much as I love L'Jarius Sneed and I want to see both Chris Jones and Sneed here in a Chiefs uniform for the foreseeable future, he's 27 years old. Again, as a cornerback with the knee injury that we have seen in the past, there should be at least some alarms. Not saying it's the biggest alarm, because let's be real now, he played through it all season long and he was phenomenal. He should have been an all-pro. But this is something to at least keep in the back of your mind. What it comes down to for me is the Chiefs have found the ability to consistently identify and develop talent at cornerback. At one point, L'Jarius Sneed was that unheralded 4th rounder from Louisiana Tech, right? This should give you some confidence that they can find and develop talent here. Why would you not spend money on a position where you struggle to find and identify talent? You cannot develop quite as well there. That, for me, is a reason why, if you have to move on from L'Jarius, I'm not going to sit here and be worried. I think he's more of a want than he is a need, in the words of Matt Verderame. To me, Chris Jones is a need. I get the age. I get the fact that that might be alarming, and the fact he did sit out week 1 because he wanted his money. I get all of that things. The only defensive tackle under contract for the Chiefs right now, Neil Farrell.
Yeah.
It's Neil Farrell. Okay? They got a couple of future deals.
I think Matt Dickerson's got a future deal. Is that helping?
Matt
Is that
Dickerson
helping?
and Isaiah Buggs.
Buggs!
Don't get me wrong. I think Buggs could be at least a rotational guy. He's not Chris Jones.
I'd rather have Taz, personally.
So I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's pretty good. I gave you a little bit there. I was kind of on a roll, and I was trying to keep going.
This
and
thing
now
on? Power through. Power through. Power
now
through.
I lost my train of thought.
That's all, folks?
No, it's not. Bam.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Dylan, for massaging my ego. Sterling, back to you. Great points.
You already have an all-pro corner. Now it's a slot corner, which I think should be at least brought into the equation here. Trent McDuffie so far is a first-team all-pro slot corner. That's not outside. L'Jarius Sneed is an outside corner. So it's not just 1-for-1 there. But you do have Josh Williams. You do have Jalen Watson. At some point, if you trust your development, take the training wheels off. You have to trust Josh Williams. You have to trust Jalen Watson, right? I'm not saying you don't draft a guy or develop another guy, bring another veteran in at some point, a la a Bashad Breeland. But if you're paying $15+ million a year for a cornerback at a position where you have consistently identified and had growth there, why do you bring back Dave Merritt? Why do you trust Spags then? You can do it with anyone. I want Sneed here, but at the end of the day, I think it's a want, not a need.
Yeah, I follow along similar lines, and again, I'm not going to be like soothsaying if they get this deal done of, oh, this is a deal they're going to regret, especially at those numbers that Verderame was saying that he had heard from agents, that he himself, again, Verderame saying he thinks these numbers are a little bit low. But if the offer is 3 for $45, I mean, he was talking about, what, 44 guaranteed, essentially, kind of combining the double tag option as a little baseline there. If we're talking 3 for $45, especially if the first 2 years of that are guaranteed and the third one's kind of a little funny money, if it's 4 for $50 at a lower average annual value, but your first 2.5 years are all completely guaranteed, essentially, I'm here for all of that. I really thought before this season is when I would have made my biggest bet on L'Jarius Sneed not being back with the Chiefs, because the knee thing just barking through the offseason gave me some Juju Smith-Schuster vibes of like, hey, there's a player they loved having who went and signed a reasonable deal somewhere else, who the Chiefs were out on in large part because of the knee situation for Juju. We have precedent for that, for them being willing to walk on players that they really value. I have a hard time skipping a year in the future and going, wow, the Chiefs have completed their three-peat and they did it without Chris Jones. That's a very hard thing for me to imagine right now. And it is a combination of two things. It is his individual impact as a player and the void he leaves if he's not around. I'm with you on, like Jason was saying last week, he's fully on Team Joshua Williams there. And the Chiefs drafted Joshua Williams. It was like a 5-spot difference from when they drafted L'Jarius Sneed. Similar ranges for both of those guys. Williams was more of the measurable investment, and Jalen Watson was bringing another guy in here, and Watson playing at a higher level in college, gets in the mix a little earlier in the pros. But I think Joshua Williams is still a long-term investment they like. Shamari Connor, these roles are all changing. There's a lot of flexibility here. But the Chiefs are playing more 3 safety stuff in the playoffs, even without Brian Cook in that mix. Shamari Connor ends up taking a big step, and what they ask their defensive backs to do can cross over some. I do believe that whatever corner they take in the 4th round this year is going to end up being an impact player by the playoffs. It has been a path to success every single time they've done it. There's not a miss on that list.
Even Rashad Fenton was a 6th-rounder who was getting meaningful Super Bowl snaps.
Yes.
Again, and then he got released. Or
he got traded for very little, but yeah.
I think it was a 7th-rounder.
It was conditional stuff because you have all the rookies behind him.
And again, it's because what this Chiefs team can do, identifying as well as developing and having them be useful in their scheme. Najee Johnson looked like during OTAs and training camp before he got injured that he was going to take a massive step forward. They have a 7th-rounder they drafted in Nick Jones. Again, I'm not saying these guys are L'Jarius Sneed, but they have depth there. You do not have depth at all on the defensive line. The injury to Charles Minna, who, by the way, opens up another void, a more immediate void of necessity that Chiefs are going to have to try and wiggle with. And again, that's why I keep saying with the cap space exploding, how much does it help KC versus hurt? Because again, it's great on the, yay, more money to play with, but also every other team does. And when you have teams like the Bears or teams that are trying to get better, the Panthers who are going to have so much money to throw around, the Commanders, well, they're going to overpay for these guys. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. It's why Miami was able to go in and get Tyreek Hill. They were able to offer more money.
In your guys' opinion, how close is this? Because I don't want to disparage L'Jarius Sneed because he's awesome. If you've watched the divisional round or wild card round franchise episode, he is a menace on the field, and it definitely affects people's headspace. But how close is this to the Penei Sewell,
Jamar Chase like conversation? Yeah.
Anybody, Jamar Chase, anybody, Penei Sewell kind of thing. And I don't want, it's just me thinking about those.
Penei Sewell's a great football player, too. This isn't derogatory.
Yes, both of them are. It's like, I just think of those 3 plays that were touchdowns. The Josh Allen one and the 2 in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of feels like that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at, too, where if I'm given the opportunity to prioritize, if you told me you can either flip a coin on Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, or you flip a coin on Chris Jones and you get to lock down L'Jarius Sneed, or lock down Chris Jones and flip a coin on L'Jarius Sneed, I would lock down Chris Jones and then work with the space that's left around me there. The other part of that, where again I think all 3 of us are on the same page and kind of like finding similar footing. The Chiefs are down a pick right now. They have their own 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Dallas is 5th, no 6th, and then a 7th-rounder. And I guess there's a compensatory
could be
still
from Andrew
coming,
Wiley,
I guess.
But Andrew Wiley was a starter.
But then it goes back.
Juan Thornhill, he played enough. Yeah.
But they lose some math with McCole Hardman, all of that. I am not saying that I am thrilled about L'Jarius Sneed getting traded for a second-round pick if that's what it ends up being. Or maybe it's a couple of later picks. But I think the real secret key of this defense has been George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed to this point. All of those rookie defensive backs, Brian Cook. The rookie contracts and the young guys who they've been able to trust, that keeps your bottom dollar down. You can have your top-heavy Chris Jones, even your L'Jarius Sneed contracts, if you're nailing these picks and you're filling out your roster with rookie contracts. The Chiefs have less ammo to do that with right now than they've had over these last couple of years, and I want them to be able to continue that process. I don't think they can move up from 32. I think moving up is not an option because you're going to have even fewer darts to throw there. Even if you're only moving, if you're moving your third and your first, you've really tied your hands. All of that to me is left tremendously interesting because I don't think the Chiefs are going to have other options for loading up on draft picks in a way that I'm expecting as of right now. I didn't think they would pre-Tyreek Hill trade that way either, I suppose. But I am very hopeful about how this defense can stay young and stay fresh if Chris Jones is still a part of it. Without him, it all gets a little nerve-wracking. I'm interested in keeping Sneed as well. We got to take a timeout. When we come back, we can put a bow on this conversation. Talk some baseball coming up at noon with Josh Kaiser. More Zone next. all the other families hurt on that day. So if you're hearing about this for the first time now, want to know how you can help, and so many people have been asking about over this last week or so, you can head over to Sports Radio 810's Facebook page to find links to donate to the victims and their families. The post there should be pinned up on the top of the 810 Facebook page. So check it out there on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page to support the families and the victims, because we are Kansas City Radio and we are stronger together.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
Still the Zone here. It sounds a little different today, though. I'm Joshua Brisco over here in the big chair. Is that Sterling Holmes? Sterling, that's usually where I sit. You're going to have to move your backpack later so Mick Schaefer can sit there at 1 o'clock. But you got a full hour to figure that out. Dylan Michaels behind the glass. That is the stability we all need in these trying times, as is the calming presence of the one and only Josh Kaiser. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshKaiser40. Check him out on the One Royal Way podcast over on KC Sports Network, an aficionado of all things ranging from the Twister movie sequel and his own vasectomy. Josh, how you doing, man?
I'm doing swell. It's been a while since someone says my presence is calming, but hopefully that doesn't mean I'm putting people to sleep. That would be a problem. But happy to be here once again, fellow Josh Sterling. how's it feel to be not Josh right now?
Incredible, phenomenal. It's weird. I feel like I need to get like an Emmy or like a trophy and give a speech.
Just to hi, I'd like to thank everyone who's not named Josh for also not being Josh's and believing me. Like, thank my parents for not naming me Josh.
Thank you for not naming me Josh or Joshua or Joshua's tree or anything in regards to a word starting with J.
Are you typically a Joshua, Josh, in the family, or how does your naming convention typically go?
It's straight up Josh, unless you're my mom. Shout out, Mom. But if things are going poorly with her, then it's Joshua. But that's literally the only person allowed to call me Joshua, legally.
Okay,
good, because there are differences. If you're a Joshua and you're like, hey, what's up, Josh? And like, no, it's Joshua, we're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, that feels unnecessarily strict.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joshuas do not party like a Josh does.
Yeah, Dylan, go ahead and mark that one also. I know the F8 button's getting worked out over there, but I need that one to make it so I can have a ringtone. I think I'm Joshua Josh in the streets, and I'm not sure which one is which. I'm going to keep it moving. I think that naming convention is important. Listen, Guthrie, you keep your eyebrows down, all right? Sterling in the sheets and Guthrie in the streets over here. Relax.
How do you know my middle name that well?
Because you talk about it all the time.
No, you bring it up.
Fair. We have talked about it many times, and I was going to say we've been friends for a while. I'm starting to doubt that. We've known each other for a while.
We've been acquaintances, co-workers.
John Dillon, any thoughts?
Nope, not really. Not many ever, so.
What's your middle name, Josh? And then we can move on.
Mine's Paul. I don't know, like my best friends, I don't know a single best friend middle name, so I need to get on that. I feel like I'm lacking in that department.
The thing about it that I don't know why this has been true for honest to God, the entire time I've been allowed to speak on the radio, it's always a good little icebreaker. I mean, because sometimes you figure out that Guthrie Holmes could be a country star while Sterling Holmes is doing radio. You're Joshua Paul, like your name is so biblical. The Kaiser part actually isn't what stands out. And for me, usually Kaiser is a very typical biblical association. Spelled different.
Yeah, the story goes that when my parents brought me home from the hospital, on the way down to the car, they shared an elevator with a nun, and she said how beautiful I was, obviously, because I was a very beautiful baby. And they asked the name, and they said Joshua Paul, and then her face lit up. So from then on, it was history. Like I was just born and into greatness after that.
This is Job Habakkuk, and he's a beautiful baby.
Shout out Mom again for not naming me Job Habakkuk.
That's a big save. Shout out to Mrs. Kaiser. I don't know if Cole is a biblical name, but it may become one around here this year. I know we are so early in the process of spring training excitement that's a precursor we can often bring. But Cole Rakins is building on something that we saw legitimately last year. 5 strikeouts and 2 scoreless innings in spring training. I've got some info on his induced vertical break, which I learned about yesterday. Where is your excitement level on Cole Rakins right now?
I'm trying to be very realistic here. I don't want to get too excited about Cole Rakins because of the injury history, because of the problems commanding the zone. That's all been there in the past. We have a good, really, really good sample size of him last year, and then a great start to this spring training. But I'm trying to temper my expectations with Cole Rakins, let him, pleasantly surprise me with dominance, and then see where that takes me. But man, it is hard to kind of, like I said, kind of temper those expectations a little bit with what he's shown us. It's bonkers. What he's able to hit 101 with that induced vertical break as well. I mean, that is elite fastball shape. I just cannot get over how good that was. And Anthony Rendon, apparently, baseball is not his passion, which is more power to him. I totally understand it, but neither was swinging and hitting those pitches that he was being thrown yesterday by Cole Rakins. So it was very, and I was very excited to be able to watch Cole Rakins instead of just try to hear how good he's pitching and hear how Denny Matthews and Jake Eisenberg and Steve Stewart are really making me feel about Cole Reagan. So it was awesome to kind of get to see them on TV yesterday.
Yeah, you're trying to temper expectations while I am sitting here going, he might be Randy Johnson. Have we ever thrown a bird out there just to check? Like, throw a bird.
Get a Roadrunner. It's Arizona. They're everywhere.
Get a Roadrunner, throw it out there, and see what happens, because he might be Randy Johnson. Now, for everyone listening who might not understand baseball-induced vertical break, it's the pitch is breaking upward from the average level a pitch falls from release to home plate. So basically when we say 20 inches of induced vertical break, it's not necessarily breaking the laws of physics,
right?
But it's pretty darn close. Basically, he is a wizard is what we're gathering from Cole Reagan's. Now, again, I understand where you're coming from the injury side of things, but from the production side of things with Cole Reagan's, you look at last year, you look at his ERA, incredible. Then you look at the expected ERA, even lower than what it was supposed to be. So where do you land production-wise with Cole Reagan's? Does he still have the opportunity to do what he did last year, but for a full entire season?
I mean, I'm not expecting that from him, but it would be great. I mean, there's plenty of reason to believe he can, as well as just hope that he does, because that would be absolutely massive for not only that pitching staff, but also the fan base. There's been, I mean, since 1989 probably, with like going into the season with Brett Saberhagen and George Brett, we've never had a 1-2 pitcher-hitter hype opportunity, a hypertunity. There it is.
Ooh, I like that.
To very, have high expectations for a hitter and a pitcher like we do now with Reagans and Bobby. Because, I mean, Reagans has absolutely showed us that he can be that guy in a 3-month span. But I just need to see it over the 6-7 months that he's going to face here. I did see, while I was kind of looking up things about Cole Reagan, Dave Holtzman on Twitter was talking about Cole Reagan led the majors in strikeouts from August 1st to the end of the season. That's 4 above Spencer Strider, who won the NL Cy Young last year. So that in and of itself is enough to get you pretty jacked up about it. But the fact that those came without being crazy high walk rate and still having a very low expected ERA is massive for expectations.
I know we're trying to walk that line of like reasonable expectations and wanting to just hop on the hype train and enjoy what that could mean for this season. But in that grand scope, what are you allowing yourself in terms of the furthest reaches of an optimistic outlook that you believe is actually plausible for what his year could look like if these pieces are coming together?
Well, I did do a parlay calculator on something along these lines. So right now, Cole Reagan has the 9th best odds at AL Cy Young at plus 2,500. Bobby Witt Jr. is 9th best odds for AL MVP at plus 2,000. And if those two things happen, the Royals are absolutely making the postseason, which is the plus 400. That parlay comes to about 23,000, plus 23,000 on that front. So if you want to throw a little money on that parlay and plausibly think that that's an outcome, that's your prerogative. But if you're going to do it through DraftKings, promo code KCSN, shout out. But it is reasonable to think that both of those guys could very much be in the mix at the end of the season for 2 of the Major League Baseball's highest awards. And if that is the case, then we've got something very, very special happening in Kansas City.
I was going to ask you about Drew Waters here, because Drew Waters has now become my Alberto Mondesi, which is a guy I will never – they'll be like 37 years old. They'll be 37 years old. They will be no longer in baseball and go, yeah, but guys – the potential of this dude. I am all in on Drew. Of course, he hit a home run in his first game. Of course, he goes 1 for 2 yesterday against the Angels. I still believe he has the higher upside than Kyle Isabel. It feels like there's either an Isabel guy or you're a Waters guy. There's hardly an in-between here. I get Isabel has the elite defense, but Waters is still very solid in his own right. The power potential's there. He can take a walk. He's a switch hitter. Where do you land on Drew Waters, especially in regards to Kyle Isbell?
I've kind of maintained that he might have the highest ceiling and the lowest floor of the current outfield group. Like you said, he can be and has shown the ability to carry an offense. He did that in a couple of different stretches down in 2023 last year. But his floors are so low that it's even his ceilings kind of take him, way out of the picture as far as what you think is going to happen moving forward. But I'm with you there. I was looking through Sterling's Twitter page right before I came on, and he was a big believer in Cocoa Crisp back in the day.
Yeah,
I was in
you might not want to believe in me.
I'm in the same boat, man. I had a bottle koozie of the number 1, and I drew in the name Crisp on the back of the jersey koozie. So I was a very big Cocoa Crisp believer when he was a Kansas City Royal. But back to Drew Waters, I guess. Here we go, tangentially. Drew Waters, I think, has the highest ceiling if he can just make contact with the ball more consistently. I think the exit velocity is there, the power is there, like you said, the speed is there, the glove is there. He can absolutely fit anywhere, and the switch hitting hitter can always go in a lineup wherever you want to put him, even if that's lower towards the end. So I'm a big believer in what Waters can be, but the ultimate test is always going to be bat-to-ball skills with any major league hitter. If you can't hit the ball consistently, then your ceiling is going to be extremely low. So I think he's got to figure that out. He's still young. He's still got time, but the clock is kind of ticking at this point. So he's still got some time. We'll see what happens.
Cocoa Crisp signed an A's hat for me at spring training at one point out there in Surprise, and I just still can't believe that his name for an entire professional baseball career was the name of a cereal. Like, it's unbelievable. It's the great. I think it's probably the greatest name in sports history. I know that's a huge list and a huge honor, but it's hard to beat Cocoa Crisp.
Do you know his real name?
Yeah.
I was gonna look it up, but I don't have it in front of me, so I'm excited.
Even better than I thought. Covelli Lois Crisp.
Yeah,
Covelli.
boy,
It's
that's
pretty good. Covelli.
That's so good.
It's spelled like our friend and coworker Covell, just with an I at the end. I wonder if Covell knows that he could have been a Coco. he could have been Coco Hudson. That would have been great. Man,
That's a real deep dive in Cocoa Crisp. I didn't, and also shout out Cocoa Crisp, 2014 wild card hero for the A's during that game. But I sat there watching that game and was like, I knew Cocoa Crisp was going to be the guy. I knew it was going to be him. I knew it was going to be Alberto Callaspo. Both of those former Royals are going to come back and win and lose this game. I just couldn't believe it.
All we need was Mike Jacobs to come in. If Mike Jacobs would have came out and played some first base, now that would have been a real treat.
Yep, that's so good.
I think MJ Melendez is another guy who is really going to be the difference if this Royals team is around 500 or if they are really struggling. MJ Melendez, obviously, I don't know what he is. I don't think he's not a catcher. Obviously, the Royals have shown that much. He's not an outfielder. Is he a DH? Do you believe in the second half of the season where he looked like a above-average hitter? Because you have to at least be OPS in what, 760, 770 to be considered a DH because you're not good in the field. I just don't know what he is. Is he a trade candidate? Where do you land on MJ?
Again, it's kind of the same ceiling versus floor thing for him, similar to Waters. I don't think he's ever going to be good in left field and right field. I think he can be serviceable, and if the bat comes along, he can be a valuable big leaguer at that point. But those things are riding on two ifs, and that's never a good bet in any case scenario. But the talent is there, obviously. He's shown it in the second half last season. He's been okay at the plate, but again, like you said, not DH material. He's not going to give you an outfield. So what would you say you do here, MJ Melendez? So I don't know if he's a trade candidate. I don't know what he's bringing back in that situation outside of a bag of balls. People are going to be, still buying in on the potential at that point, but he hasn't shown a ton to be able to, to pay a high price that we would probably want him to. And then on the back half, he's a Boris client. So any team that wants to potentially have him there in the long term is going to have to, that's an uphill battle to get some kind of extension worked out there too. So there's a lot that interested team to trade for MJ Melendez would have to really put themselves out there as far as risk goes to be able to trade for. But he could show something at the beginning of this season and really start turning heads. And at that point, the Royals shouldn't be trading. They should be playing him every day and seeing how high his ceiling really is. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's still he's still an assessment for me, despite not wanting to be an assessment year. I think he's still in that formation as well.
Yeah, his Baseball Savant page is absolutely wild. So basically, it's on a scale of 1 to 100, right? 100's elite, it's the best. 1 is atrocious. Obviously, it's the worst. His fielding, his arm strength, 93rd percentile. Great. Arm value, 84th percentile. Obviously, great. His range, 2.
Oh!
Yeah.
2. Yeah.
And he's got a bit of athleticism, but he's a former catcher, so that's obviously capped. And his routes are atrocious.
It's Nori
Real bad
Aoki out
routes.
there.
So,
Nori Aoki.
Yeah.
and
Nori
him-
Aoki was a converted catcher. Yeah.
And then again, you look
so,
at the.
I mean, he could
just
he
really
could
quick.
absolutely get better in the offseason. Maybe he was, but I just don't know. It's got to go a long ways.
And then you look at what he did batting wise, 96th in average exit velocity. That's outstanding. Hard hit percentage, 91st percentile. Barrel percentage, 75th. So you're sitting here, he hits the ball extremely hard, but when he makes contact, he whiffs at the 7th percentile. That's brutal. 93% of Major League Baseball players make contact better than he does. He can take a walk. So you look at some of the more analytical sides of things. You're like, well, he takes a walk. He has a lot of power. He just does not make contact. He's got to get with someone to try and find a way to make contact. Again, I'm not saying you need to become a singles hitter or a Johnny Damon slap hitter, but a little more consistency with MJ would be nice. But you look at the baseball savant, the underlying metrics, and you look at a guy who's on the cusp. But how many Royals players in the past have we sat back and said, if he could only do this, it's just one thing away. At some point, it just might not happen here.
Yeah. And I think the things that you would want him to succeed at the plate, he does. Like hard hit, barrel rate. He's got a pretty good eye. Bat to ball skills is definitely, like you said, pretty questionable at best at that point. But I think that could also come with a little bit more experience too. But it is kind of an enigma to have to rely on him, and you really can't. He played a lot of plate appearances were at the top of the order last year, and I just don't think that can be the case this year. If he's hitting 5th or 6th or lower, then you're in a pretty good spot. But again, what are you really gaining by trotting him out there every day?
Talking to Josh Kaiser of the One Royal Way podcast on KC Sports Network. Joshua Brisco, Sterling Holmes, and Dylan Michaels, your tweaked version of, not that we're a tweaking version, we're the tweaked version of the lineup here in the zone today. Jason Anderson back on Wednesday. Josh, I want to ask you about a player the Royals did sign since the last time we talked and a player they didn't sign since the last time we talked. What does Austin Nola getting added to this team mean to you other than meaning that Salvador Perez is no longer the oldest catcher on the roster?
That is a factoid I did not know. That is very surprising. It was kind of an interesting signing of a 34-year-old backstop that he doesn't have, I think he might have 3 or 4 years of service time. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was interesting because they did not have a third catcher on the 40-man roster. So I'm sure, right there it was like, okay, this is a depth situation. He does have an option, so he can be sit down to Omaha. I thought that there was a potential situation where he could make the opening day roster along with Salvi and Freddie Fermin as like, we want Salvi to rest more, we want Salvi to DH more, and there's room in the lineup to rotate and maintain that flexibility to allow that. Also having Salvi as the backup first baseman in that situation too. So there's a scenario where you're carrying 3 catchers on the opening day roster where you may not have thought that was a possibility prior to the signing, but I still think it's still, and JJ's comments kind of echoed with that as well, that it's going to be Salvi, it's going to be Fermin more than likely, and then Nola's going to be depth if there's an injury problem, something like that. But he also has experience with Seth Lugo, with Mike Waka, a couple of those guys that, we touched on last time I was on that, all these guys kind of got on that group chat apparently and be like, hey, come to Kansas City. It's really cool. But it could be something along the lines of that. But when he got released by the Brewers, it was very, very quick signing to jump on the Royals team. So I think they got a spot for him. He's obviously it's a major league contract, so it's a 40-man spot. They've got the flexibility. So why not? They needed the depth. I think that's where we're at.
When it comes to Vinny Pasquantino, it feels like everyone's just assuming he's going to bounce back to the guy he was pre-injury. Where do you land on Vinny? Because, again, we're throwing him into he's going to be good. He's going to be the exact same guy he was before the injury, a guy who's the middle-of-the-order type of bat, a guy who is a, top 30, top 40 hitter, just hitting-wise in Major League Baseball. Where do you land on Vinny?
Obviously, we need to see the health, and the shoulder has been an issue for multiple seasons. It's not been a new thing, so hopefully the procedure he did, it was very invasive and drastic, and he missed a lot of time with it. So hopefully it is all worth the trouble and the rehab and the emotional toll it obviously took on him with the reports when he talking to Andy Rogers over the weekend, talking about how much he missed baseball and how excited he was the night before the first game on Friday. So he's obviously into it. But I think we've got to see it, obviously. And then hopefully it's got a pretty good history of track record the surgery does of cleaning it up and people kind of coming back to form. So I think there's a good chance that we can see it, which is why everybody's so optimistic. But, you gotta prove it. So that's kind of where I am, at least on this. But I'm cautiously optimistic for sure.
Here's a non-Royal I wanted to ask you about because he got a little bit of buzz or when this deal came down. Cody Bellinger, you may have just forgotten that he was available, and then he ends up signing a 3 years, $80 million deal to go back to the Chicago Cubs. I saw you quote tweeting one of Lesky's tweets on all of this, and I don't know. I have seen some Royals fans like kind of apoplectic, and then lots that just sort of assume that no good player would intentionally sign with the Royals, no matter what the price. What did you see when that number came down, and how do you look at that through the lens of what the Royals have done this offseason?
When I saw Bellinger sign his numbers, I was like, wow, good for the Cubs. That was, that's a very reasonable deal to get at his peak, potentially an NL MVP candidate. He was very, very good last year, even though the underlying analytics don't really say that he hits the ball very hard. Well, the production numbers are definitely there last year and the year before that. So I guess not the year before that, but last year was very, very good. So I think the Cubs got a pretty good deal. It is a little bit risky for the underlying metrics, but he's got a player option for the second year and third year. Yeah. So it would have been a nice contract to give him as a Royals front office executive, but I don't know if he's taking that money from Kansas City. I think he probably does have a little bit of a discount for the Cubs, considering they kind of paid to believe in him last season and kind of get him back on track. I don't know if the Royals are getting that same contract for Bellinger, but I don't really know what I would do with Bellinger at this point. With the current Royals outfield still needing to figure out what you have there between MJ, between Waters, between Isbell, between Nelly, between Gentry, between all these guys that they, not even including the Hunter Renfroe, the Garrett Hampson, the Adam Frazier's of the ilk. So I don't know where he would fit in this situation, but that seems like a contract that I would want the Royals to hand out if they go, I don't know, just under 500 this year. Mm-hmm. I would want them to go spend on a big free agent next year and see what that can get them in 2025. So it could be a year behind that I'm too, pretty worked up about that. But good for the Cubs and good for Bellinger at that point, too.
Yeah, I know where he fits. Starting center fielder and batting fourth. I know exactly where he fits.
I mean,
but again, you're right. I mean,
it could be.
It's a risky proposition. I mean, he was phenomenal last year. The 3 years prior, he was absolutely atrocious. And then 2019 was when he was the MVP while hitting 47 bombs. Again, maybe he
Sorry, Josh. Every once in a while, Sterling turns into Jim Rome, and he doesn't realize it, but it's just it's something we overlook on purpose here. Go ahead,
Wait, what
Sterling.
did I do?
Nothing, man. How many bombs did he hit?
I keep my lettuce tight.
What did he say earlier that I said back to you, Dylan? I said Sterling said something at one point. I just hit the talk back just to say to Dylan something like,
it was a 3-syllable word. I just couldn't remember what
incredible.
It was.
Phenomenal. Go ahead.
Arugula. All right, Adam Frazier.
It's his dark passenger. Just every once in a while, rack 'em.
I think Adam Frazier versus Michael Massey might be the most interesting, or at least up in the air, actual positional battle during spring training. Where do you land on Michael Massey versus Adam Frazier? Because I actually like the Frazier signing in a nutshell, because it's sending the message that that's great, you're young, potential, but at some point you have to produce. It's no more, okay, well, maybe he could be something. Same thing with Nicky Lopez, right? Eventually you have to actually do something. What do you make of this positional battle in spring training?
100% with you. I think it is a very good signing in that fact that it's going to potentially push Michael Massey without getting into his head too much. I think that's kind of the underrated part of it, is you're not bringing in a top free agent that's going to be like, well, this is your replacement if you can't figure it out in spring training, Michael Massey. So they didn't do that, but they did bring in a quality hitter in Adam Frazier. I mean, he's always been just a bit under league average outside of the one, flash year where he was out of his mind. But I think it is a quality left-handed bat that they did bring in to be able to hit or play multiple positions, not just second base, but potentially give, Michael Garcia a rest at third base or shortstop with Bobby Witt. So I do like the signing, but it does not have a huge up factor on that. It's not gonna send them over the hump by any means. But I do like the potential that it could do for Michael Massey, who again, his actual numbers versus his expected numbers were one of the worst in baseball. He was very, very unlucky compared to those numbers last year. So I think that this could also help him kind of stabilize those numbers, push him a little bit more, and see where we are after that. But it's not a great commitment to Adam Frazier. It is pretty easy to eat that money if they have to, if there's nothing there. If Michael Massey goes and wins that job, you're not complaining about it anyway. So I do like the signing after plenty of nights sleeping on it. I do like that kind of how that all kind of is going to shape up.
Well, and same thing with Hunter Renfroe. The reason why I like these moves, it reminds me, again, slightly of Tampa Bay. What does Tampa Bay do for a long time that I think a lot of people don't realize? They don't have bad players. Like, I know it seems so simple, simplistic, but they don't have these black holes. They don't have the best players. Like, they don't have the Mike Trouts or the Juan Sotos or the elite guys, but they have from top to bottom, a lineup of guys who are at least average or better. And not having those black holes is really the difference in why they are consistently in the playoffs. So what the Royals are doing is they are raising the floor. They raised the floor with Hunter Renfroe being the guy over Edward Olivares, right? Edward Olivares is fine in a nutshell if you're trying to figure things out, but I think you have the known guy who's at least average with Hunter Renfroe. You have the known guy who's at least average with Adam Frazier. Those, to me, signal what Tampa Bay would do. You can't have those black holes, 2, 3 black holes, 7, 8, 9 in your lineup. You just won't win.
100%. It allows you to maintain flexibility in the lineup and defensively while also playing matchup baseball, which is also something the Rays do, and it's also something Matt Quatraro wants to do, I think. So being able to bring in veterans that can provide leadership within the clubhouse as well as good production at the plate that is, a known commodity. You got that coming off the bench every night between Adam Frazier, between Freddie Fermin, Garrett Hampson, between Dairon Blanco is kind of a unsung hero here.
Yeah.
So I think that there is quality on that bench, and when you're turning the bottom of that roster like that, it allows you to play higher than your anticipated outcome.
Josh, you left your house, went to a movie theater, and paid money to see Madam Web?
Sure did. I sure did, Joshua. And let me tell you, I don't regret a single cent of that.
Please take me with you into the theater and what that experience was like, because I've only seen reviews, and it seems like the lead actress in the movie has not yet seen the movie and likely never will. So what was your Madam Web experience?
So going into it was that Jeff Delo, the movie guy with Barstool Sports, talks about, like, me and a buddy go see all the superhero movies together. It's our mandates that we cherish. We haven't seen any of the Sony Spider-Man spinoffs, so we kind of went in blind. But that Jeff Delo tweet talking about how Mount Rushmore, Jordan in his prime, that's how bad this movie was. So we couldn't not see this. Yeah. And boy, did it not disappoint in like an inverted. It was very bad. It was very laughable. Like 5 minutes in, you're like, wow, this is awful. Very, very bad. So that was the experience. It's been a while since I have cringed so much for 2 hours where I just covered my face and could not stop watching the screen. So it is a horrible movie all around, to the point where it goes past just being angry about your time and money spent, but being happy that you experienced it.
There's something about that. It's like, oh, gross, come smell this. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll get a whiff. Like, oh, you won't believe how gross this is. Yeah, I'll take a bite.
The writing, the acting, the story, there is not a single, it's so hard to not get a single thing right in a movie. I mean, we got Dakota Johnson, whatever. I'm not a big fan of her. Sydney Sweeney's at the height of her powers. Adam Scott might be an Emmy winner if he hasn't already. Oh, yeah, he's in this movie.
Didn't know he was in it.
I've never heard of this movie. I have not once. When you said Madam Web, I thought you were like making like an Adam West joke or something. Like I've never once heard of Madam Web.
It's a Clue character. She kills the butler in the dining room with the candlestick. Madam Web. It's real bad.
I appreciate the work you went to make sure you could be there to experience that. I can't. It's excellent to me that Sterling is just learning this movie exists only in the context of how horrendous this has been going. I haven't seen it, Sterling. You want to go? You free at like 2 today?
Yeah,
2:30.
I like bad movies.
Don't you want to grab a matinee? I don't know. I am morbidly curious, but also I feel like I don't.
Kind of sounds like 3 hours of my life I'll never get back.
That's
so.
kind of what. But it's a special experience, though.
Hear me out. 12% of the 218 critics' reviews are positive.
12% of the critic
12%,
reviews are fresh.
Yeah. The average rating of 3.4 out of 10. The website's consensus reads, Madam Web's earnest approach to the title character's origin story has a certain appeal, but its predictable plot and uneven execution make for a forgettable superhero adventure.
Wow.
You can go ahead and revoke all privileges from those critics. Just take them all, maybe even their right to vote in the American elections at all times, because their judgment is so poor, like it cannot be redeemed, much like Madam Web. They are the Madam Web of film critics.
I got to roll a long way before I start getting... Here's a fresh one for you guys, all right? Here's a 6 out of 10 fresh one. Dakota Johnson's droll, in-on-the-joke star turn plus a weirdly welcoming stupidity at least makes Sony's ill-fated, not-quite-a-superhero movie a painless good time. That's a fresh review.
Yeah.
If a movie is painless, that's not typically a good indicator.
And there is no way she was, quote, in on the joke.
No.
There is no way that, she just didn't want to. She phoned, it was awful. Her specifically was awful. But I don't want to besmirch anybody who works. It's hard. They work hard. I don't want to, lay into people too much. This is a good experience because you will not, it's like Saltburn. Like, you're going to come out there and be like, what happened to me right now? I don't know how to be a person at this very moment, but in a good way. And you use matinee. Don't spend this Friday night primetime surging hour. Don't spend that money. Go to a $6 matinee. That's all you need to do.
Sterling, don't start reading the plot of Saltburn live on the radio, just as a little gift from me to you. You know who didn't phone it in? Literally on the phone, Josh, but certainly not phoning it in effort. Josh Kaiser of the One Royal Way podcast, bad movie aficionado, and you can find him on KC Sports Network. Josh, appreciate you being here to celebrate the year of Cole Reagan's and the year of Madam Web. Appreciate you.
Long live the parlay. Let's go. Thanks for having me, boys.
There's some incredible odds out there. If you missed it, you can get Bobby Witt MVP, Cole Reagan's AL Cy Young, Royals to make the playoffs at like plus $1 billion. Think about how many matinee movies you can see by hitting that parlay there. Check them out again on the One Royal Way podcast on KC Sports Network. We will take a timeout here in the zone. Joshua Brisco, Sterling Holmes, and Dylan Michaels with you. We'll take a timeout, come back, and either talk about bad movies, the Royals, or a little Chris Jones intel that I think is worth kicking around. We'll see where we end up next in the zone. us. Going to keep talking to him all season long. He'll be our Monday Royaler, and really enjoy getting to hear from him. Movie reviews and baseball reviews and otherwise. Joshua Brisco, Sterling Holmes, and Dylan Michaels with you here today. Jason Anderson out today and tomorrow. So I'm over here, and I decided, you know what? Feels like a Tuesday. Not a Tuesday. It's a Monday, but a Tuesday. Sterling, you said we were talking before the show about just some things we might want to talk about at some point. And you have, let me get the actual, let me get the phrasing right here. What I have written down is Stu's Sky Moore take, not to get to the Scandinavian thing we may get to later on.
Yeah.
But I, generally speaking, kind of have, I think I also have a little bit of a Sky Moore take, and I'm really interested to know where you're originating from.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I think he can be a useful wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know folks are going to take this out of context with no nuance and say, what are you talking about, Sterling? Cut him, trade him, he's a bum, why is he on this team? Yeah, he'll be good. He should be a slot receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's what he is. He's not an outside receiver, so putting him on the outside is going to bring back bad results. It's a combination. Yeah, you'd like him to thrive out there, or at least be decent, or at least be useful, at least be DeMarcus Robinson, but guess what? He's not. And at some point, if you keep trotting him out there, it's not going to work well, and you're going to end up like what you saw Sky Moore this season with the Chiefs. Now, I said you should probably try and use him in the slot, and I keep seeing people on my account say, yeah, maybe a slot machine in Vegas. Yeah, you got that one. That's pretty clever.
Actually kind of funny.
That was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna get mad at those people. That was actually pretty clever. But what it comes down to for me is Rashee Rice was playing the power slot this year.
Yep.
He that's where the majority of his snaps were coming from, and he was much better than Sky. I am not saying you take out Rashee Rice and insert Sky Moore there. I'm saying if you were going to start playing Rashee Rice more on the outside, which I think could be a legitimate possibility, then what happens? Well, that actually allows Sky Moore to go back to his previous position where he was at least useful. I'm not saying great. I'm not using the same lame old sky's the limit. No. DeMarcus Robinson in the slot's the limit. Like,
sky's not the limit, but you would like a little more. Right?
Yes.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
That's where we're at.
I'm saying like 400 to 500 yards is in the realm of possibility for
Sky. And that would be a freaking slam dunk. That would be a jackpot in the slot.
Yes, and again, I'm not saying he's this superstar, but he's on a rookie contract with 2 more years left. The Chiefs are not just giving up on him. Like, I don't understand this. I guess I take it back. I do understand this. When you see Rashee Rice come in and immediately thrive, you say, why couldn't it be him? Sure. When you look around and say, well, they could have had George Pickens, and then this. It's the same thing with DK Metcalf versus McCole Hardman. I understand this. At some point, though, it's a sunk cost. He is on your team. The Chiefs drafted him. He will be here 2 more years because he's on a rookie contract. How can you find a way to make him valuable? The Chiefs did with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yes, it was a mistake drafting him in the first round, obviously. But what did the Chiefs do? They found a way to use him. And they made him again, useful player. They can find a way with Sky Moore, and it comes from him playing in the slot. It all comes down to me is, do you view Rashee Rice as a power slot, or do you view him as a actual outside X-type wide receiver? That's what it comes down to, because if you view him only as a power slot, Sky Moore's done. He's going to play a handful of snaps, maybe throughout this season. I get that. But what I come down to, and what I'm trying to find folks to have some sort of understanding is, Sky's going to be here. Mm-hmm. How can they find a way to make him useful? This is how I think they can find a way to make him useful.
And if you are talking about a receiver room that's going to look very different in a lot of places, Richie James is not going to be on this team next year. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the one. I know. I'm sorry. But if he's getting some combination of the snaps that went to guys that couldn't unseat him or some of his own original snaps, I think there's some work for that there. The 2 things that give me pause here, I'm coming from a point where I'm generally kind of agreeing, I think, with your hope for Sky Moore. They gave him a lot of snaps that were not productive. And that I don't think I don't think he'll be a training camp cut. I think Sky Moore's going to be on this team this year. I think the rookie contract matters. I think the cost matters. I think, dude, if you find a way to have him on punt coverage and you're just paying him like a special teamer who gets Richie James's snaps, probably don't make him punt return, but you know, if there is any role for him, it makes more sense for him to be on this team than not on this team. Unless you AJ Jenkins, John Baldwin him with some other second, third round draft pick at receiver from a similar year, and just a couple of teams, it's a change of scenery trade.
Sure.
And frankly, I think I'd sign up for that. I think you might sign up for that if it was a change of scenery trade for a team with too many outside receivers and an outside guy that never quite made it work. We're a year early on Quentin Johnston, I guess, where none of us here in this show, Jason more than any one of the Chiefs to draft him. But if you told me in 2 years the Chargers were like, hey, this dude's nothing, you want to swap for your nothing for our nothing? I mean, maybe. Ask Andy Reid. Whatever Andy Reid says and whatever Patrick Mahomes says, I agree with that result, whatever it ends up being. But I think it makes sense to have Sky Moore in the mix of this team when you have him in a spot where you're saying he's probably receiver 5.
Yes.
And then if he's able to achieve higher than that, you're happy with it. There is going to be enough of a turnover that I do think you need to make some tough decisions, and you need to say, hey, we're not going to hold on to Sky Moore. We're not going to feed the ball to Sky Moore if we think there's another better player that's earning that. But I'm not really worried about the Chiefs doing that. The Chiefs aren't going to embarrass themselves trying to make themselves look right on this one too long into the future. I'm not really stressed about that.
And again, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Breland speaks. That's the perfect example of they will move on if they have to. And then also you've seen the other side of thing with Clyde where they go, okay, he's still on the roster. How can we make it viable? It's going to be somewhere in there. And when it comes down to with Sky Moore, you saw him his rookie season, towards the end, show a little bit of juice. Mm-hmm. And we saw him in the slot make a couple of useful catches and nice plays that made us all excited about what could he be in his sophomore season. It obviously did not happen. But at the same time, I just sit back and he is going to be wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. You're probably looking at, obviously, I think Justin Watson's back, by the way.
Yeah,
because he's under contract, although they could cut him. At least I saw his contract, and there's zero guaranteed money is what I think it was.
I think there's a tiny bit of guaranteed, but yeah.
But you find a way to make it work. I just want to have some nuance. In the salary cap era, especially with Mahomes, with the cap hit that he currently has, with the Chiefs trying to bring back Chris Jones, L'Jarius, the offensive line with the money getting paid to Jawan and Joe Tooney, you're not just saying, yeah, we'll cut Sky and bring in Mike Evans.
Right.
Well, that's we're not saying Sky's going to be Mike Evans,
right.
But you still have to have the back end wide receivers on the roster, especially when they are on a rookie deal.
If a rookie contract wide receiver who was drafted, where'd Sky Moore, was he 50-something?
Yeah,
right?
second round, whatever it was.
If some other team's second-round receiver 2 years out of the draft got cut and the Chiefs signed him, it would all be, what does Veach know? Veach loved him. He loved him in the draft. They swept him up because some other team couldn't use him right. That logic, I think, holds. Justin Watson would be $150,000 in dead cap money. He'll be back on a $2 million salary. $2.1 million per spot track for his cap hit. He'll be back on that. The issue with Sky Moore and the difference between Sky Moore and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is that, and it's funny because I don't think anybody was more beside themselves from the Clyde draft picks than we were.
Yep.
And I'm still going to get taste for that at some point. And I don't know that there are a whole lot of people more on the team of Clyde will be on the 2023 Chiefs and should be than us.
Yeah.
Because we knew exactly what Clyde's role was going to be this year. We knew exactly what it was. Isaiah Pacheco is your number one running back, but on third downs, you'd like it to be Jerick McKinnon. He's a better pass catcher, better in pass pro, knows the offense. But your third running back can be a guy who has been in this offense for years, who has done a little bit of everything in this offense, none of it at an elite level, frankly, none of it at a great level post-injury, but all of it at a competent level. So there's a role for that guy here if either of the running backs in front of him get hurt. And guess what? They both did. Mm-hmm. So Clyde had a role. I'm not as convinced right now that opportunity will be there for Sky Moore. And frankly, the Chiefs shouldn't leave an opportunity there. If Sky Moore can take an opportunity, then that's fine. But it is a little bit of a tougher road for him, in my view, because they do have the best slot receiver on their team is Rashee Rice.
Correct.
And I don't know how they're going to view that receiving group this offseason. Who are they going to bring in? Because it's not just they're going to move on from MVS. They will. But who's the MVS replacement if they don't get it some little restructured thing done with him, which I guess there's a chance for, but I'm not betting on. They're going to have to replace outside receivers first, and I don't know how they view the next year of Rashee Rice, but I would really be bummed if he got forced out of his best spot to try to maximize, to give Sky Moore another shot, right? So that right there, that's where my nuance is coming from.
Same exact situation. I'm not saying force Rashee Rice, but if you saw him play more outside as the season progressed, well, does that make them believe that he is an outside guy versus, again, a power slot? With Sky Moore, final thought for me at least, I think it's a lot of the mental side, not the physical side, which, again, you can make the case with Kadarius Toney as well. It's the mental side, not the physical. With Sky Moore, though, I don't think he's not engaged at times. Like, I think you can make the case maybe with Kadarius. With Sky Moore, I think he's overthinking. If you look at his routes, he's trying so hard to run the perfect route. He's trying so hard to run this exact route without any sort of feel, right? You have to have the feel side of things. It's almost like Chuck Knobloch when he couldn't throw the ball to first base. It was
God, you love crossbar
John
analogies so much.
Lester when he couldn't do a pickoff move. Rick Ankiel trying to pitch, right?
I don't know if Sky Moore has the yips, man. He couldn't get open. I don't know.
But I think part is because he's trying so hard. I think he needs to relax. Like, that's personally where I'm coming from when I watch him. I think he's overthinking, and when you're overthinking in football, you're done. It moves too quick. So maybe a season off where, again, he had high expectations last year. His expectations were he might be wide receiver 1.
Yeah, that was publicized. You know who else was in that mix? Kadarius Toney. Can I share a fun stat with you?
Yes.
Kadarius Toney's cap hit this upcoming season is a little over $2.5 million. Do you know how much they save by releasing Kadarius Toney?
Oh, probably hardly anything.
0.
Yeah, he might be back.
$0. So that's going to be something else to keep in mind. You want to talk about receivers with potential, and you can't save much by letting them go. You got a whole lot of stressful wide receiver decisions, but hopefully they're towards the bottom of the roster as we go.
But Sky Moore doesn't stress out the team. Tony, I think, maybe stresses out.
I wish he'd stress out defenses. That would honestly be ideal. That's Sterling Holmes. I'm Joshua Brisco. He's stressing me out now. All right, I have a question for you guys. I'm letting you keep one of these wide receivers. You're betting on one of these receivers to make an impact in 2024. Sterling, do you want Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney?
Sky Moore.
Dylan?
I'm going to go Kadarius Toney.
I think I'm also going to go Kadarius Toney, and I just feel absolutely sick about it.
Yeah, me too. I didn't like it.
It doesn't feel good to say. It's why I wanted to ask you guys about it on air first, make you just work through these feelings.
Better chance that Kadarius Toney has 400 yards next year, or he becomes a SoundCloud rapper just full time.
I don't know, man. Is Sky Moore going to play football?
I say
Is he going to get into the mix? I think there's still a good chance it's SoundCloud, but I think Sky Moore just might not get any hits. I don't feel great about it. I should probably draft somebody. Is Mike Evans available? Where's Mick Schaefer? Looking at the bright, smiling faces of Mick Schaefer and young Mick Schaefer. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass as well. It's Sterling Holmes sitting here. It's like the Spider-Man meme. It's the flat brim gray hat.
Yeah.
It's the general dad rocking attire.
Yeah.
Dude, I almost rocked my Puma hat today.
You're
Yeah.
that much
Should've.
closer.
It would have been electric.
So are you dressing old or am I dressing young? What's
It's
the
both.
deal?
It's both. This is a very young outfit for Sterling, and you always dress young. I mean,
I dress
yeah,
young? Okay.
absolutely. You with like the jogger sweats with like one leg hiked up to the knee and the other one
off
down
that
at the
calf
ankle.
tat.
Yeah, showing off the calf tat a little
It's 'cause he's
bit.
biking here. He doesn't want to get it caught in the.
I know Mick's not biking. That's definitely not true. But I am worried, like, if
I
you
don't
guys
bike.
physically touch, like, is there going to be like a Back to the Future thing? I don't know. This is already a little bit disconcerting for me.
How old
but-
are you?
Oh, 29.
Oh, God, I had 2 kids by 29, married and already hating life.
All
So,
three of us
yeah,
are 29, and all we have in common is hating life. So
We're
Wait,
smarter, I
Dylan's
think.
29 too?
Dylan's also 29.
Wow.
I know what
you
you
guys are
got.
the same age.
We realized this somewhere in the first hour today of us because Sterling's is something like an old man, and then we're all 29.
I remembered that Gronk and Travis Kelce are the same age the other day.
Who's who in this mix? Who has Kelsey
Gronk,
energy?
you're Gronk.
I'm Gronk. That makes
and
sense.
these guys are Kelce. Because
Really?
Gronk's retired. You seem
Yeah.
way older than them.
I feel that.
I heard
feel older.
someone tweet out that they played in different eras.
Yeah, that's
And
what I saw
that,
too.
that was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Well, in Gronk's era, you had to worry about getting lit up across the middle, and people were just dragging him, saying, "Imagine thinking guys born in the same year are from different eras."
Travis Kelce has gone on to play in the next era because he hasn't retired twice.
Yeah.
But that's just
And
sort
Gronk
of
entered the league, I think, 2 years before
something like that.
Travis.
Yeah. Not exactly having to deal with Mike Ditka, but I mean a year or two earlier.
Right.
It's incredible. How was your weekend, Mick?
It was great. You saw me for a good chunk of it.
I did. I had a great time.
Yeah, Dylan stood us up, but you
Sick
were there.
invite.
Yeah, well, it wasn't for you, so we had a good time.
yeah.
I feel like I acquitted
true.
myself pretty well in 2023 Jeopardy.
Yes, you didn't win, but I felt you performed the best.
Thank
You and
you.
Renee were very good. You took it very seriously, and I
did.
appreciate that.
I did.
Lad just got a couple 500 questions there at the end, and
But that's all. Sometimes that's all it takes.
it was the Kadarius Tony Sky Moore question.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
I got
technicality.
on a technicality.
When
it
I say
happens,
Super Bowl
but
57, who ran the corn dog play? Who do you think of first?
It's Tony.
Yeah, it is. But there was the same type of motion with
Yeah.
Sky Moore.
You tried to trick him because
I didn't. When he said Sky Moore, I'm like, gosh, I feel like I should give you some points.
That's all right.
And consider that.
I think I cleaned up. I think I got $1 on that one. I think I got $1.
That's
So
right.
it would have been a
You
tiebreaker
had
if I would have
11
kept
and
it.
1.
I didn't keep it. I ended up losing it all.
It was a tough Final Jeopardy question that
Brutal.
that lost you for it. Yeah.
Brutal, tough Final Jeopardy question about the
Joey Gaff right?
automotive strike.
The big three automotives. It was Ford, Chrysler, and who's the third?
Yeah. Renee and I both went Chevy, and that was not it. So
Ford,
General-
Chrysler, and General Motors.
General Motors is what Aaron got it, and so Aaron was victorious.
Stellantis can also be accepted for is it Chrysler, I think.
Is that who? Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
I got better at Golden Tee. I got second in 9 holes of Golden Tee, and that
Where
behind
did you guys go? What is this place?
Mick's house.
Was there a keg involved? This is a fraternity house. There's Golden Tea, Jeopardy, a keg.
Kegs don't make fiscal sense anymore. I mean, you can get 30 packs for like $22.
Ping
get a
pong
bunch of
table, we
those.
folded up, but I've definitely got some ping pong in me.
So you know how I can tell how inflation works is based on how much a case of Busch Light costs. Because I used to always say if you get
he seems younger than me.
well, see, no, hear me out. It used to be, it was
He
like
did.
$16, and so like anything, if you got it $20, you're like that's a case of Busch Light.
I don't
Anything up
remember
to
at 16. I
18.
remember at 18.
Well, it got up to 18, and that was great. And then everyone, the big great Busch Light influx of people, and I'm sitting here going, they realize that it's a very good beer. It's
Yeah, it's
classy.
just fine, right? It's,
Mick doesn't remember it being 16. You do though because you started
College.
drinking at 7.
Right, yeah.
Like what? How did you get ahead of Mick in the
No,
Busch Light buying game?
It was because it used to not be popular. Like no one drank
Yeah.
Busch Light.
Yeah.
And then we all got in on the Busch Light train because you wanted to
Marketing.
Is marketing
Because of marketing. Marketing
because
got
we
you.
marketed.
they got the corn cans now.
Yeah.
They make
Whoa.
sweet shirts, sweet hats.
NASCAR.
Good
I've seen
logo.
him on a NASCAR
Yeah,
car.
all over NASCAR.
Bush. I get
There's
it.
2 drivers last name Bush.
That's huge. That was huge for the brand.
I watched 80s or 90s and 2000s beer commercials, and Busch really had some solid ones. Some real solid throwbacks.
We almost brought this up with Josh Kaiser earlier. We ended up like so annoying. We talked about baseball for so much of that conversation that I eventually had to skip it. But he had tweeted about this, and former AES intern and all around good guy Tucker D. Franklin was tweeting out his beer type power rankings in terms of the best type, not brands of beers, but like I'll just say number 5 for him was shower beers. And I thought if we didn't talk about it with Josh, I felt like this triumvirate here, and I'm including you, Dylan, because I don't have that strong of an opinion on some of these, but I knew both of you would. It is going to be like 75 degrees today. It's going to get close to 80 tomorrow, and then it might snow overnight. But let's enjoy the balmy beer-having outdoor weather we have right now. Beer draft, beer Mount Rushmore right now. Where would you
I
guys
have opinions on this?
Where would you guys go? You got 1-1, Mick. I'll give you 1-1.
Shower beer's my 1-1. It's great. You're getting ready. You're just you're in there. That's where I want to be. I'm like Kramer. It's where I take long showers.
Yeah, welcome to the club,
my thoughts.
I also take long showers.
I love
but
baths too. I include bath beers with shower beers.
Bath beer makes some sense because you're reclining, you're luxuriating in it. I got
shelves in my shower.
How often?
I'm rich enough to have shelves in my shower.
And that's really, I'm hoping that someday I can install a shelf in my shower. How often are you doing a shower beer?
Once a weekend at least, right? Getting ready to go over to somebody's house, whatever, going to dinner. Yeah.
Okay, you'll do approximately a weekly shower beer.
Yeah.
I'll try one soon and I'll get back to you. I'll send you a picture and let you know how it's going. Sterling, you want 1-2 here?
I will say what makes it a shower beer even better is if you get a speaker and you start playing music, and it really feels like you're having a pregame in your shower.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's part of it as well.
lovely.
The kids take their phones into the showers now. Do you know that?
No.
I'm a big
Schoolers.
shower speaker guy. I don't bring the phone in.
Yeah,
though.
we get speakers out there, but they'll just in the shower just looking at it. As like the water's hitting their back and.
There have been a couple of times when I have maybe an NFL Sunday when the Chiefs aren't playing
they're
early.
addicted when they just can't take a shower without their phones.
I mean, yeah, it's not like you can't take a shower without a beer or something. That's upsetting. Sometimes I'll
Speaking of addiction,
I'll put Red Zone on the. I got like a clear shower curtain for the most part. You know, got a little pattern on or whatever. I'll go Bluetooth speaker. Phone sitting up to where theoretically I could peek over if there's something going on.
He wants people to look in. That's the real
Well,
thing
that's why that window is open, and that full-length window we have in our bathroom that is cut right there by the shower. But listen, if somebody's looking in, that's up to them, okay? I'm just there.
Is this a technicality? The next one. Best beer is the next one, always.
Sterling, Tucker's number 1 overall was the next beer. So if Tucker obliges, I think that's fine.
It.
No, I think that counts. I'm saying you're good there.
What about, are we counting golf course beers?
Absolutely. But
those are included. I think that's goes without saying. That's
not
part of golf.
That's not out of the ordinary.
No, that's why you golf.
But we're still categorizing beer types. Dylan, what's your number 1, your first round pick with the ones off the board already?
I was going to be golf beers, but I'll go grill.
You can take golf.
Grill beers.
Grill beers
are great.
is good.
Nice.
I don't know if we're doing a snake draft or not, but I'm gonna say the backyard beer. I feel like a lawn chair beer. I might categorize it as a lawn chair beer. That to me, I feel like it's just a different experience altogether.
Well, mowing beers.
Yeah, mowing beer, a
beers.
post-mow beer.
You put it on like the fence post, and every time you go around, you stop, you have a couple sips.
Have you done this yet? Because I've thought about it.
That's where Guthrie came at.
That's where the Guthrie
have you done
came
this
out
one yet?
Have you done this one yet? Have you built? I've thought about this. You seem like a handyman. Have you built a cup holder on your lawnmower? Because I've thought that might be a good move.
I don't have a riding lawnmower. I push it, baby.
No, I'm a pusher too.
Yeah.
I'm a pusher. I mean, the issue is you might when you bend down to do the turns, you might get some spillage.
Yeah, no, I've not built a cup holder for my mower.
Where are you putting it?
Like it's.
Where did you say you're putting it without a cup holder?
Where you put on the fence post.
Oh, it's like a lap. It's like a lap post beer.
You've earned a couple more sips.
Yeah,
I love
that.
That.
You're just going
that's
over,
great.
You're going over the same area.
Excellent.
That one area is going to be bare. I mean, I guess
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna mow the grass, but when I get to that point, I'll walk over to the fence.
You can move it to the next post.
Yeah, but the lawnmower, if he's the same guy, you're pushing it. It stops. You got to start it over again.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's for a beer, Sterling.
We're gonna build a cup holder. I want a lawn situation. If there's an engineer listening, that'd be great.
I don't like. It's gotta be a metal cup holder, I think, and I don't do metal.
Seems like a lot.
Woodworker.
I'm gonna go ahead and snake draft this, and I'm gonna go ahead and take a lake beer. Maybe you know what? I'm making a boat beer. I think
Yeah, boat beer's
on
great.
a body of water, ideally in the body of water, that's that. I'm going to go lawn chair beer, boat beer. I'm not that big of an outdoorsman, but I'm also not that big of a beer guy, and I become significantly more of a beer guy outdoors. That's when it comes around for me. Dylan, you're up again. I prepared them not at all for this. I didn't decide we were doing this until just now. Also, my apologies to the aforementioned Josh Kaiser, who absolutely inspired this, but isn't here now. And he just said, I am so disappointed in Mick right now, because I believe Josh's take was that shower beers are overrated. Dylan, make your pick and then call Josh back real quick, please, just so we can get his shower beer take. What's your second round beer?
I'm going to go sporting event beer.
Ooh.
Out in the parking lot, though, so I didn't pay $15 for it.
Tailgate beer?
There you go. My bad.
Tailgate beer. Tailgate beer it is. Will you legitimately please call Josh Kaiser back and let him say his thing about shower beer, and then we can talk about something else later. Sterling.
Well, I guess I'll take golf beer then. I thought it was going to be included, but if I can take golf
Why
beer...
would it be included if we're making everything on the table?
It just figures
Yeah, I
obvious.
figure this is usually kind of out of places you normally don't have beers.
Yeah.
But I'll keep going.
We can
'cause
reward
I've had
creativity.
beer in so many spots.
What's your second round pick, Mick?
Oh, it's my second one. Can I do room beers for like on the road, hotels? Room beers.
Hotel beers? Can I make it
Just
hotel?
room, well, I call them room beers because you put them in your room. You have them because
you're not
hotel
buying them.
bars close at like 6:30. It's the stupidest thing on the planet. If I was president, it'd be the first thing I change. You're staying open as late as all the bars, okay? And so you get home, it's 10, and the whole place is locked up.
Yeah.
Go to your room for some room beers.
No, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. So, Mick, you end up with shower beers and room beers.
Good.
Sterling, you have the next one and golf beers.
Strong.
Dylan goes grill beers, tailgate beers. Dylan's are both happening in coalescence with grilled meat, and I think that's important. And I've gone lawn chair beer and boat beer, both about being in a certain vessel outdoors.
I want an honorable mention because you said if you were president, you would make the bars stay open later as far as in hotels. I said I want 3 lanes on I-70 the entire way, specifically in Missouri.
What's that to do with beer?
Now here's why.
You mean 6 lanes then?
No, 3 total lanes.
6. Sorry,
Going west,
6
you only
lanes.
get, if you're going west, you only get 1 lane. Sorry.
Middle lane, good luck.
Here's why.
Side lanes, you know what you're supposed to be doing. Middle lane, Mad Max.
You can drink in Missouri as long as you're not driving, right? You can crack open a cold one.
Right, yes,
we
you
used to
can.
do that all the time as we were heading to Columbia and to Branson for golf trips, right? So
Is this how you're going to say roadie?
a roadie. It's a roadie.
It's a
But
roadie.
Is how you're
not
gonna
the
slide that one
driver.
in there?
But not the
Right,
driver.
yes.
But not we don't do that. Of course.
Did you play barn silo?
We did not play
what's
barn
barn
silo. Yeah,
silo?
1 drink for every barn, 5 for every silo you see. in the country of in the country roads of
we do-
Missouri.
we do it
a lot of
for-
times there's more silos than barns. You got to watch out.
Well, we do it for firework stands, of course, and then adult content billboards.
Water towers are 10 in the game barn silo.
10 beers or 10 drinks?
Drinks.
Okay, but say you're getting wild over here.
I mean, you can call them backseat beers. How about that? There's a little
There you go,
iteration for
yeah.
you. We bring in our number 1 overall shower beer hater, Josh Kaiser of KCSN, the One World Away podcast. And about an hour ago on these airwaves, Josh, thanks for being back on the show. What's your issue with shower beers?
I could not stress how disappointed I am Mick took this 101. Cannot stress this enough. That is pure propaganda at this point. I don't know what Big Shower Beer is paying Mick Schaefer to advocate for the shower beer so much. I just don't. I mean, what? How long are these showers taking here, boys? Can't we just take our man shower in 5 minutes and be done? And
Oh
be
no,
back?
No, bad take. Horrible take.
I'm 15 minutes.
What are we doing?
at least.
15 short.
I had lots of stuff, but I'm with my thoughts, and if I'm with my beer, then it's even longer. And then it's like always getting ready, right? Your wife takes forever. Mine does.
Take
at
your
least,
time, yeah.
Right?
What are you rushing for? Nothing.
Yes. She can be like completely ready. She has to just go grab her purse, and I can get out of the shower, finish my beer, get dressed in time to beat her to that purse.
The only rush I'm going to have going is the band Rush as I'm listening to it with my shower beer.
Yeah.
Josh, your retort.
My showers are more quantity over quality here, so I take 5 to 10 showers every day. Yeah. Because I'm a big dude and a lot of crevices on myself. I need to wash those crevices as often as possible, just for the world's good. But a recliner beer, a backyard beer are all way more potent than that shower beer is because you're getting it watered down. I mean, what are we doing?
That's the deal. You got to drink it fast because it's going to get warm, right? So you got to make it pretty much all about the beer before really washing yourself. It needs to be beer, then washing yourself, then whatever else transpires in there.
It's true. I mean, it's the same. It's the same that can be said for a lake beer or a float trip beer or something like that. We got to do it quickly. Everything's quick. But I just get to have those beers a little bit more time for those beers once I get out of the shower. That's all I'm saying.
I hate boat beer. I hate moving boat beers because I mean those get spoiled right away because you're going so fast and the air gets in there and yeah.
Okay. I didn't.
There's a case to be made for that.
Moving boat beers suck. I like sitting boat beers. Floating boat beers.
Jet ski beers?
Pontoon beers. You want pontoon beers.
Pontoon
Yeah.
beer is
Sure,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Anytime Creedence Clearwater Revival comes on, CCR comes on, I think it's automatically you have to have a beer. I think that's
That's what you should tell the cops to get pulled over.
sorry, man.
CCR is on. No, I got you, son.
That's not a law? I thought this was a law. Josh, thank you very much for your most important contribution to the show today.
That's what I'm here for. Appreciate you guys.
Josh Kaiser, beer aficionado of all different rankings and other sorts. I feel good about our list, and I feel good about the progress we've made as a
Can
society
I draft
today.
one more?
Yeah,
beer?
absolutely.
Yeah, me too. I got one.
Oh, okay. Then go ahead. Hit your. I'm not gonna make us snake back around here. What's your Mick? What's your honorable mention, or what's your third? We'll finish the third round.
It's an NRB. No reason beer. So when you get home at 2 a.m., I'm like, I'm going to start watching Game of Thrones right now. You crack open a beer, and in 2 minutes, you're passed out. You've taken maybe one sip. You wake up the next morning, you're like, that was an NRB.
It's NRB right there.
It's a no reason beer.
Okay, Sterling, your third.
I'm doing the backseat beers.
Backseat beers.
It makes your road trip go by a lot quicker.
I bet.
But I will say, make sure you bring a jug, a bucket,
For what?
small bladders.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
actually maybe worse than barfing, which was also a weird thing for you to brag about.
I'm just being honest. I
No,
don't,
but-
I don't,
and
I
that's
don't want
fine.
to pull over.
I'm not gonna pick.
I don't
any-
want to pee in a car.
Yeah, I'm not picking any beer that makes me pee in a car.
No one wants to pee in a car.
Well, I would rather just pull over and side of the road.
you got a 4-hour road trip.
Yeah,
You're
they have gas
crushing-
stations and like rest stops and restaurants.
But
Where do
I
you
wanna
live?
get there.
Manitoba? Where do you live when you're taking these guys trips?
We're heading to Ozarks,
Columbia. I
Branson.
mean,
Yeah, there's
or-
every 2 miles there's a place to pull off and
Yeah, but
go to
then
the
you have to
restroom.
stop. That adds like 5
no,
to
I
7
know.
minutes on each time.
Yeah, your actions have consequences.
Yeah.
No, man, they just keep going.
Well, I mean, in a 4-hour trip, and you're not going to back, you don't have to stop more than twice. Probably not even more than once. I mean, if you have a man bladder. If you have a 29-year-old bladder. But
You have not hung out with Sterling enough. This man is.
you a big peer?
Six times already this 4-hour show, and
All the water?
all the
It's
water. and
shocking that there's
coffee.
only
Yeah.
one
I just
vestibule
crushed
here.
the coffee. Yeah.
Because Sterling typically has. I'm not kidding. 2 on average is the number of drink vessels around him at all times.
You're my wife. Her pastime.
I thought he might be your son. But.
No, her pastime is carrying lots of big dumb cups to the car. And one's water, one's her morning shake, one's her coffee, and she whatever number of available cup holders we have, she brings one more cup.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always one. She'll put on the dash. I'm like, you know about centrifugal force at this point, right? That cup, when I left turn, that thing is going against. I'm gonna grab it, and then I'm like, okay, good luck. I have stains on the mats, okay, to prove that you're not always gonna grab it. Oh my God, it just drives me. I'm like, it just drives me. There's so many big dumb cups.
I don't have big dumb cups though. I just have like these just normal.
Single use, straight to the
Single use.
landfill.
Yeah,
He
that's very
loves
weird.
plastic.
They're here. They're free. I'm not
You can
spending
bring
money on
one.
cups.
You can bring
You can
one
bring a
cup
Stanley,
with
and
you.
you have a clear plastic cup.
You're
there.
gonna buy me a Stanley, Nicholas? Are you gonna buy this one for me?
I have like 12 at
His
home.
wife
I'll
has
bring
50.
one to you.
She
Yes,
won't
you can have
notice
one.
if he takes one.
Jason's got the knockoff Contigo brand that I always make fun of that I've never heard
you see,
of.
this one, the coating has come off on this one because I've used it so much. It's because it's reusable.
Yeah.
Dylan, what's your final beer?
Final beer is the airplane beer. I think
Oh.
that.
God, how do we miss that
hate
one?
flying. I hate flying, but I'm never gonna just like no do a trip or make it a big deal. So the beer on the plane.
That's a great call, man.
It counts as 2 as well with the altitude as well.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Good call.
I'm gonna finish out my top 3 with maybe a little bit of a sleeper, but really grabbed my heart watching the film. The 11 a.m. beer. Typically, that's going to be on a weekend or on a Monday holiday. But if you crack it open at 11 a.m., that's a lot of college football Saturdays. That's a lot of leading up to Red Zone. I'm thinking ideally of the Boulevard Grapefruit Wheat. That is built for an 11 a.m. pop top.
You know what he grabbed? He grabbed some
late start.
Late start. 11 a.m. is a late start.
What you grabbed some sort of bomb pop seltzer at my house the
Oh,
other night?
dude, those were great. The Smirnoff, the bomb. I couldn't find the bomb pop ones. I think Mackenzie took the bomb pop one. I had several different Smirnoff Ice zero sugar ones, which was great for me and my fragile pancreas. And they were delicious. So yeah, I was down with one of those. I also had a Bud Select, which I don't think I've ever had before.
Solid.
So I did have a actual beer in addition to the 14
I'm not sure
Smirnoff
there's any
Zeros.
alcohol in those Bud Selects.
It said like 3.1
like
carbs,
waters.
and it was in a black can. I was ready for it to
lot
be a
closer
little
to water than
aggressive.
beer.
Yeah, and it was fun.
Who had a Bud Select? I don't have that at my house.
They were in there. I don't know whose it was, but I saw it and I was like, yes, I'll take a crack at it. I don't think I took anything from your house that I wasn't generally supposed to have, but I'll have to think about
We're missing some throw pillows.
I did.
And a television.
Renee has the TV and I have the
and
pillow.
the dog.
Renee definitely has the dog. The concerning thing is that she's been able to hide it from me to this point. So I don't know where the dog is, but I will begin asking some tough questions as soon as I get home. That was great, guys. We drafted beers. Josh called back in. I've had a good time. That could have been the best thing that happened to me all weekend. I learned lots of things, but that's not Learn Funniest Best. Go ahead, Sterling. Ruin my throat of the break.
No. What's hard is now we don't have
you did
a
already.
beer. Like that's what's really disappointing is now we're doing this entire conversation. I don't have a cold one in my left hand.
Yeah,
Are you
it's
left or right? By
It's
the
not the
way?
night show anymore. I'm right-handed.
You drink. I mean, you're right-handed, but what's your
what-
beer hand?
What's your beer hand?
I'm probably right-handed mostly, yeah.
think
I am athletic enough, believe it or not, to drink with both hands.
switch?
But I most of the time, yes, with the right hand.
You're a switch drinker. I think I want to go. I want to go glove hand. What you want to have
You
your
called
hand
me-
out to handshake.
I'm a switch drinker?
You could switch either hand. You could
Okay,
switch hitting.
But
But
I'm right-handed and I mostly drink, I guess.
I think I want to drink with my glove hand because you want to be out here
Like for golf?
handshaking like a baseball glove.
Okay.
Yeah, like base. And we got to throw something. You got to
Exactly.
You know, like you're playing cornhole.
You're definitely drinking
You gotta have
left-handed.
left
sure,
hand.
yeah.
Yeah.
But mix amphibious, and we know that. So there's nothing surprising there. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Do a little Learn Funniest Best. I can't imagine it's going to get funnier than this. Sterling Holmes in here with us for the show today. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. Do you guys learn anything this weekend?
I did. I learned some stuff.
Sterling, how many
Forgot
days would you
most of it.
say? How many days would you say you typically learn things?
4.
Out of how many?
Out of
Every
no,
week?
out of
the
4
month?
days.
4 times. Except by that answer, I assume you've learned things 4 times in your life, and most of them were about Busch Light. But that's okay, because Learn Funny is Best, presented by Pyramid Roofing. Check them out online at pyramidroofingkc.com or give them a call, 816-966-1101. Here's what I learned via a tweet from Ryan Spader that I have been sitting on for a while now, because it is remarkable, and I sure hope it's true. Madison Bumgarner had more grand slams than Prince Fielder, who had more inside the park home runs than Ricky Henderson, who had fewer steals of home than Babe Ruth, who had as many shutouts as Pedro Martinez.
This is amazing.
How good is that? That's from Ryan Spader on Twitter. It ended up with enough likes and retweets and he's a real person with real followers, that I have to imagine that is a perfect weird baseball stat.
It's a Jay Cuda type.
Very Jay
stat
Cuda.
there.
It's before and after of a different sort. Madison Bumgarner more grand slams than Prince Fielder, who had more inside the park home runs than Ricky Henderson, who had fewer steals of home than Babe Ruth, who had as many shutouts as Pedro Martinez. That's what I learned, and it's amazing. Sterling, what'd you learn?
I learned that ripping a well tequila shot past the age of 21 is a horrendous idea, and no matter how many times you brush your teeth, the lingering taste of battery acid stays with you.
Anything else you want to offer from that experience?
Yeah,
That sounds like
some bad decisions.
you have a
after
bad
that?
time.
Wasn't my fault.
Well, then who
now.
did it?
Was
Yeah.
it my fault?
Forced a gun against
Yeah,
your
who
head?
poured it down your throat then?
Well, so I'm there with my fiance. I went to Manhattan this weekend. First time in Manhattan. So
Ever?
Yeah. Well, besides band camp. Besides band camp.
Jeez, There's so many. I don't
Huh.
know which way to go with this.
I was a drummer.
I was a drummer.
Yeah.
I didn't go to band camp.
Well, not
How was
band camp. We had a
Story keeps changing.
a showcase, if you will.
Did you stay the night?
I would no.
Okay,
No.
it's
No.
not
Not
camp
camp.
then.
It's not
I
camp.
was center snare. Got us to one. Everyone. Yeah. Blue line with drum line. So I was there with my fiance, her parents, then her brother, and her brother.
Band
my fiance,
competition.
myself.
You just went to band
Wait,
competition.
band competition. This
Yeah,
is- So my
A
first time
band
back.
comp, not a band camp.
First time back since I was like 16. And her brother decides to go to the bar and comes back with 2 well tequila shots.
What bar?
We went to a few. This one was at Rockabelly's.
Rockabelly's, baby.
Rockabelly's, yeah. And, well, I take one smell. I go, this is tequila. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's well tequila. I go, oh, nice. Where's the salt and lime? He goes, you got a beer right there. So that was the chaser. And
Yeah, he's right.
Chase.
He's right.
It was bad.
This reflects poorly on you.
It was gross.
Deal with it. Last segment was all about how much you love Busch Light, and then you're like, ew, well tequila.
Yeah.
It's a shot. You're not putting
Well,
it on
tequila
ice, right?
is atrocious. It's.
Eh.
I would rather have Malort. I think I would rather have Malort than well tequila.
I learned that I think less of Sterling than I did before. Mick, what'd you learn?
Amazing, right?
I know.
You
It
use a low bar.
keeps dropping. I'm digging right now in the dirt.
I learned that India is 11 and a half hours ahead of us.
What?
11 and a half hours ahead of. Right now, it is 1:30 in the morning in India.
Well, it's
1 o'clock in the
It's
morning
now
in
1 in
India.
the morning.
It is 1 in the morning in India.
How did that happen? Why did that happen?
1 a.m.
Why is that the only place that happened? It's literally, it says 1 a.m. like on the dot.
It just makes its own rules. You know how Arizona doesn't want to do we're not doing the daylight savings time? They don't want to. So they were right between Bangladesh and Pakistan.
Is this the whole country?
And they're an hour apart, and they're like, we don't want to decide which way we're going to be, either with Bangladesh or
my
Pakistan.
goodness.
So they went right down the middle. We're like we're half an hour ahead of one and behind the other.
That feels like an unnecessary complicator in life, just probably due to like geopolitical issues.
It feels like a large country too. Like that's a great question.
Big-
If the entire
it's a big
country was.
I think it's the whole country because I just one in India, but I know New Delhi or Delhi now is definitely an 11 and a half.
They only have one time zone. The country has officially observed India Standard Time since 1947.
Also, not that long in the grand scheme of things. We can fix that. We'll figure out a universal time. I'm kind of over time zones. I feel like we just figure this out. If it means this show's on from like 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., it's fine.
I'm done with standard time.
For sure, definitely done with standard time.
We only have
unnecessary.
how is standard time a third of the time?
I don't
We only
know.
have it 4 months out of the year.
I don't. That's a great. Wow, what a great
Why is
question.
it called standard?
What a great question. If it's standard, why is it only a third of the year?
Yeah.
Great question.
Thank you.
Can we get some answers? Dylan, give me some answers, or tell us what you learned.
I'll go with learned. I learned that the baseball players have some amazing fantasy bets. The gentleman for the Blue Jays, he's a pitcher. His name is Tim Meza.
Okay.
Had to serve as the bat boy for the team, and his record was his number 4-10 on the back of his jersey. It's amazing.
That's pretty good.
My Sports Update posted it, so
Okay.
take a look.
I thought you were about to say that a lot of fantasy bets have been paid off by just like wearing the Fanatics pants. It's like, all right, guys, well, bad news. You finished last, and so good luck on picture day. But I guess everybody's dealing with that. So, Sterling, what's your funniest? Is that how that works?
College friends bringing up old takes you had when you were back in college, because now that I do, obviously, radio, they love to bring up old things I said that were very, very stupid in college.
We do the same thing, but they're from a week ago.
Yeah, that's just Friday.
So I had one of the worst takes of all time, and they decided to bring this one up. This is a dandy. In 2013, guess who the backup catcher was? Anyone? Any guesses?
For the
Royals. For the Royals.
Was it not Butera yet?
No, it was not. 1 year.
Jason Kindle?
Left-handed bat. Love Jason Kindle.
Love Jason Kindle.
Left-handed bat.
Unless Dylan's got it, I don't think we're getting it.
Yeah, George Kataris. Remember George Kataris?
I do now.
Yeah, George Kataris versus Salvi. And I said, against righties in the 9th inning, who would I rather have at bat?
Yeah.
I said George Kataris.
Sure.
I had just started getting very big into baseball analytics, and I was like, well, he takes a walk, and then you look at the numbers overall, and you're like, Sterling, you are a dumbass. Like
You're a dumb person.
So I learned, one, don't drink in analytics.
Yeah.
And number two, George Kataris had a higher OPS versus righties than Salvador Perez. Looked it up. Salvador Perez had a great year that year, but I had to find something that at least
So you got it right.
made me not look as dumb. Thank you.
You were
Yeah,
kinda
thanks,
right.
Nick. I was kind of
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's not, it's not like Salvi hits 330.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
This is why Jason is so reliable for like a 8:30 p.m. PFF text from you, Mick.
Yeah.
Is because you know he's not going to be drinking and doing analytics.
Nope.
It's going to be sober-minded, clean, cold analytics, and that's
I know he's not going to be hanging out with his family.
exactly. Not if PFF has put anything out in the last 12 hours. Absolutely not. Dylan, what's your funniest?
Whoa.
Sorry, Mick, what's your funniest?
What are we
Sorry,
doing?
nope, that's my fault. I realized what I did midstream.
All right. So speaking of Manhattan, friend of mine, his son, I think just graduated from K-State. They were in a fantasy league, and the last place punishment was you had to go protest things in Manhattan, like where the sandwich board or whatever, and be on a major street corner in Manhattan, and you had to protest 3 things. And so one was a sign he held that said, he's in Manhattan, Kansas. Bill Self is the best Bill. And a couple of the others were one was Stop the Chop for Arrowhead.
Yeah, but that was received
neither
well.
one of those were received well. And then Stop Rolling Coal, which I had to explain to me. It was rodeo weekend. And the diesel trucks, when they emit the black smoke and everything, that's what that means. Stop rolling coal. And so I guess this person got a face full of a lot of black smoke there that day. But he was telling me, but he was telling me the golf course. I'm like, that is the funniest thing I've heard this weekend, and I've got a spot for that.
I'm going to use that later in the week. That's very good. I think that opens up an incredible list of opportunities. And also a dangerous one. So like everybody that's a great idea. Steal that idea and then maybe pick your spots.
Right, exactly.
Just pick your spots.
It's a Bruce Willis movie you won't know where he was out there and had to say bad things in
Signs?
a bad neighborhood. No, it was not Signs.
Oh, okay.
That
Was he in
Signs? Signs was not about literal signs.
Sixth Sense? Okay. I just got lucky on that one. Dylan, what's your funniest?
The funniest was from Dan Clark on Twitter. He tweeted Josh Hader and Jose Altuve getting some work in at spring training with a picture of Josh Hader tossing a wiffle ball to his little son.
Hey, that's pretty
Nice.
good.
Nice.
Very
All
good.
right. Good energy for spring training. My funniest, is partially funny and partially going to be the thing that begins to unravel me. I'm having squirrel problems. We've talked about squirrels on this show before. And I have redoubled my efforts to feed our birds in the
Jason
backyard.
has them too, though, right?
He does.
'Cause he has, like,
he's got like
tomatoes.
trees or tomatoes and nets he throws over and everything. I just have bird feeders, and we started getting woodpeckers in addition to the cardinals that we have. I'm like, hey, these are cool birds I like seeing outside, so I've bought food for them. And the squirrels just absolutely drain the bird feeders. So I bought little squirrel baffles so you can hang them from the basically hoods. Looks like the top of like a egg grill essentially,
Sure.
right? Like a cloche.
Yeah.
Got those to
Squirrels
hang.
don't get in, but birds can.
The birds can just fly up to it. Squirrels wouldn't be able to get down because it would slide them off. Well, put them over the top of two of them, and the squirrels just climb the post and jump over.
They're getting smarter.
They're getting smarter. The next day, I move the baffle onto the post so they can't climb up it because there's like a hood there that holds them down. So that worked for about a day. And then Renee saw one of them jump from a good 10, 12-foot post.
That's flying squirrels.
That thing flew from the top of that post over to the bird feeder, grabbed on, began draining the bird feeder. I then put one of the baffles on top of the post, on top of the feeder post, so there are multiple, top and bottom. I thought I had them. Full day, just birds, woodpeckers there this morning. I look out the window before I left, squirrel at the bird feeder. Realize one of the power lines running to the house, wobbling in midair right there. So the squirrels now are running up power lines, and I think just dropping and going straight to the feeder. I don't know. I don't even mind them. They're fine to have around, but the bird seed's expensive, and I can feed squirrels with just like corn out in the corner. So I'm continuing that battle right now of man versus squirrel.
Do you know what costs less than a baffle?
A gun?
22 shells.
Yeah. I had
Okay.
the issue with my garden. They ate all my tomatoes, and I watched one.
You people have
take-
gardens.
A big garden guy, living off the land. COVID happened,
Yeah.
and you wanted to you're like, what's going to happen? So you're like,
I went
what's
through
the-
it too, but I didn't do it.
I kept
Sterling's
doing it.
basically off the grid. You don't get that from him?
So the squirrel's running away with my tomato. I have some river rock at my house. Some river rock. Picked up a stone. Maybe I tried to scare the squirrel. Maybe I tried to hit it. Who knows?
I know you didn't hit it, so that's not another picture.
I hit it from about 30 feet away. It's running away, and I just sidearmed it like I'm turning two. It was like a cartoon. Squirrel got on all fours and just immediately flopped over. So if you want to get some squirrels, get some river rock, get an arm, work out a little bit, start throwing
I don't
like
know
you're
if I
turning
believe- You
two.
went all Crocodile Dundee on just.
You can text the
Randy
fiance.
Johnson here. On
Yes.
Squirrel.
Yes.
You can. I'll roll back the tape.
Okay, I want to see the
I'll
tape.
roll the tape.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess I'd like photographic evidence of this. It's like you hit the squirrel and
Somebody
then
already
stars.
say Buddy the Elf?
Yeah,
Buddy the Elf
we
is
were
right.
laughing. It really was one of those things where it's like, it's a cartoon. It went like, what do you get all rigid? What would you call that?
Rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis, I
Yeah.
guess. It just went all four and just flopped over.
Not that animated show with the old scientist and the kid. Rigor mortis. It's called Rick and Morty. That's all right. It wasn't for Dylan gave me like a little head nod in my audience. I got two 45-year-olds in the studio with me here, and it's how old are you, Mick?
46.
All right, I'll take that. That feels good enough. Your best, Mick.
My best
It's
was
your turn, right?
I discovered this on a site they used to call Twitter.
Heard of it?
It is called Ice Football, and it's football on a hockey rink, not with skates, though, and you're just running. And you're just the only way to stay on your feet is to take these tiny little baby steps.
Yes.
Because if you take big ones, you're
Yes.
going to get wasted.
Yes, this is
And
it for me.
Just yes. And so
Is that a field goal?
to run
Yes.
like 30 yards or whatever the length is, it might take about a minute and nobody's catching you.
College rules: if you go down and not touched, you got to stay down. Right? That has
yeah,
to be
I
a dead
don't
ball.
know. I didn't get that deep into the rules, but I just like watching it. And so
This
that's the
looks
best thing.
amazing.
Ice football.
Okay.
The ref's on skates, though.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So
Makes
the ref
sense.
can get
Sure,
a
yeah.
little help.
Yeah, I want to play this and then die doing this
Yes.
and then die doing what I love, which was apparently playing ice football. That rules. Dylan, your best.
My best was hockey fights this weekend.
Oh!
There were many of them. The best, and maybe, I wouldn't say best, maybe most one-sided hockey fight I've ever seen was between the Rangers' Matt Rempe and Matthew Oliver of the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets guy,
Actually, that's the one I
Matthew,
saw.
he popped the helmet off of the other guy within the first punch and then proceeded to land, it looks like 14 of them unanswered. And this guy, then he power slams him at the end of the ice, and it's over. And he's also dwarfed by the other guy that got beat.
Who is was it with the Rangers you said? Is
Yes.
it Rimke or something?
Yes.
It seems like that dude's just here to fight.
Yes, and
I like
that's
that.
his thing. He's a goon. So
Okay.
it's- yes.
It seems like we got a new goon in the NHL. I didn't know we were
Yes.
making those anymore, and it was very
yeah.
exciting for me as well. My best is sort of a backdoor shot clock review. As at Renee's behest, we've been watching the new Avatar show on Netflix, the live remake of the cartoon. She's seen the cartoon a million times. I've seen it all once. First episode, not its best start. Next several episodes thereafter, all pretty good. I'm not necessarily even pitching it on anyone who hasn't seen the cartoon. It's not like, oh, it's like the Game of Thrones it. It's not quite there. It's finding its footing, but if you've been intrigued by it or maybe scared off by the first episode, I think it's worth sticking with. If you want it to be good, it's worth it. And that's my 24.
Jason's gone. You bring it back.
I'm bringing it back, baby.
Well done.
I'm bringing it
Well
back.
done.
It's the best thing I could talk about in those 24 seconds. Sterling, what was your best of the weekend?
I will go with Cam Newton getting jumped by 4 youths and then just deciding to say, no, I'm going to jump you.
Where was this at? And he was dressed like the Wicked Witch.
Yes, that's true. Some sort of youth football camp or something.
And for some reason, these youths thought it'd be a good idea, and then they realized, oh bleep, it's Cam Newton.
It's Cam Newton.
So these were like teenagers that decided to
I
jump
think
him?
so.
Yeah.
There weren't really. Were there punches thrown? I saw just a lot of grabbing and shoving and all that.
Yeah, and Cam Newton just like a dad to like a 6-year-old just put the hand on the head and said like no.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal because it also goes to show you how big Cam Newton is.
Giant.
Yeah. And
I mean, NFL defensive ends had issues taking him down.
so when I was at Radio Row, I was there with Cam Newton, and he is
Just you two.
Bruce Smith was there.
Just
defensive
the gang's
end.
back together.
Just hanging out.
All three of us were there.
And Bruce Smith's big dude, obviously, right? Defensive end. Obviously, he's retired now. So, but I'm talking just shoulder width and everything. Cam Newton was like the biggest guy there, like compared to even offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Cam Newton. I don't know how anyone brought him down. So people trying to jump him, don't.
What you got from the Twitch,
So
Dylan?
Josh, from Chaotic Warrior, to your point of this guy being a new goon, he's just been called up and he's getting the tour where every guy tries to basically try him and see if he's tough, and that is the performance
The
that he put on.
tour.
Okay, because I think I saw him in a different fight altogether, and that
Yes,
he's on the
to
Goon
that-
tour.
To Chaotic Warrior's point, he's on the tour.
I
And
love
is
that.
that's a sellout performance, by the way. I
Yes.
mean, it's amazing.
That's fantastic. We've got a hockey player to rally around now. Dude is just here to fight. It's wonderful, and I'm glad that still exists. There you go. That we all did our learned and our funniest and our best, right? Decent
was it.
substitute teacher performance. I feel like I did okay. We'll take a timeout. That was all brought to you by Pyramid Roofing. We'll take a break, come back, and close down the day here with Sterling Holmes and Mick Schaefer here in the zone. Sterling Holmes has been in my chair all day. Appreciate you being along for the ride, Stu. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41, the real star of the show.
Nobody takes my chair.
Never. Sterling had his backpack in that chair for a period of time during the show today, and
Glad it wasn't when I was here.
No, me too.
Yeah.
Me too, because the things you may have done and the things that I did do that you mercifully didn't have to see.
Yeah.
Boy, Dylan, I hope we got that off the Twitch. I hope that the camera was over on your side, because his backpack is a shell of what it once was, and Sterling, frankly, is a shell of what he once was.
Can't believe you're 29.
What'd you think?
23.
Oh, dude, you're making me blush.
Oh, so Sterling, here's something. I stopped him before I could finish the story earlier, and this is going to really help contextualize Sterling. Earlier, Sterling says, I finished a nice little Scandinavian noir over the weekend, I believe it was.
Yeah, last night.
Go ahead and tell us about your nice little Scandinavian noir.
Is it a wine or a movie?
It was
I
a
think
book.
It's a book, yeah.
It's a book.
Yeah.
It was...
Sterling is the most 50-year-old, 23-year-old who's actually 29 I've ever met.
Yeah, just with a nice glass of bourbon. Just...
With a Pinot Noir, maybe?
It could be, but just a bourbon on the rocks, just a nice thick old ice cube while I'm reading my Scandinavian noir. It's called The Butterfly House. It was decent. It was pretty good. I actually was a Scandinavian noir is a little interesting, little more spooky.
I don't know much
than
about
the
Scandinavian
American
noirs.
folk. Well, because you picture the dreariness of Denmark, right?
Yeah, Scandinavia, we're talking
Iceland,
Sweden, Denmark, Norway,
Finland, if you want to
Finland,
get,
if you will.
Yeah.
Getting kind of close to Russia there, but
yeah,
I'll
get
allow
a
it.
little, that's different though.
Okay.
Those authors are a little different. That's your
Okay.
Tolstoys and
Sure. What have you.
and what have you.
Name a second one.
Nabokov.
God.
Good work.
Okay. So I thought it was pretty good. I don't know why he found this so endearing or entertaining, but
It's because of the way you said it and because of Sterling.
It is
Earlier this
pretentious. You
hour,
just say, yeah, I read a book last night.
yeah, and I don't
Yeah,
even
you
mind you
say I
being
read a book.
pretentious about it, but what you
I was
simply
not being pretentious about it. All I said was I read
I
a
don't
nice.
think you can say Scandinavian noir seriously and not be pretentious. I mean, that just
well, now-
throws you into that
I
category.
learned. I'm learning. This is what I learned. That apparently.
What I'm saying is that, Sterling, I don't want you to be ashamed of your pretentious side. What I think is so delightful is that this segment is about a nice little Scandinavian noir, and the first segment is about how much you love Busch Light. And that is what, that conflict makes you fascinating.
The duality of man.
duality.
Exactly.
Man, yeah.
Guy that
exactly.
can do both.
That's exactly right. You're a complicated individual, Sterling.
I'm an onion.
What's the last best piece of media you've consumed recently, Mick, that you had maybe seen recently?
The last best piece
Yeah, something
of media.
something new you saw, watched, read, or listened to lately.
Not adult media.
Up to you. I'm just asking you to talk about it.
Okay, I'll go not adult
Okay.
media.
He said he had a nice thick ice cube.
I'm watching Reacher now on Prime. I really like it.
all
It's
right.
good. And it's not the one where Tom Cruise is Reacher, because the whole point of the character, he's this mountain of a man.
Yeah.
And he is a molehill, Tom Cruise.
Right.
And so Reacher on Prime is really good. So that's the media I'm consuming.
Do you think Reacher versus Cam Newton 1v1?
Reacher is like 6'5", destroyed, but he's an actor. I'm going to give it to Cam Newton, the athlete.
Real quick, 4 of us versus Cam Newton in a cage match. Who wins?
Cam Newton all the
Yeah,
time,
Cam.
really quickly too.
Yeah, Cam
really,
Newton.
really
Yeah,
quick. He can still be wearing that Halloween costume.
as long as I'm the last one alive, I might just try to get to a corner and let you guys take the first wave. This is fun. Thanks for being here, guys.
You bet.
That's Sterling. That's Mick. That's Dylan. I'm Josh. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye, Mom.